live on YouTube, and we will load up our game, which was Economics Are Hard, is the name of our save file. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things when it comes to like the voting and all that. You have the idea of voter apathy. For those who do not know what the term voter apathy means, it's basically people, for whatever reason, who choose not to vote. That could be people who feel disenfranchised. That could be people who feel there's no need to vote, that things are just good and they should sort out. You can have people who, you know, they don't like their options, so they choose to just abstain, which leads to people abstaining from voting, which is the act of not voting. And the problem is, the less people you have participating in a vote, the easier it is for small radical groups to then win votes. Yeah, well, here in Australia, one of the most common complaints is that we must vote or we are fined. Too many feel our vote doesn't really matter anymore. One party is as bad as the other, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, you have that, certainly, which then, you know, the argument would be, like, what does it take to get a different party in there? And I can't speak for Australian politics, because we also have a problem here in the US where it's a two-party system that getting a third party to be able to do anything is fighting a very, very steep uphill battle. Every advantage has been afforded to the two-party system. But we don't have compulsory voting here, which we have actually a pretty bad amount. You know, it's a pretty bad amount of participation in the vote, which is where we do get some of our more extreme candidates get through, is because you've got a small radical group who is rallies and motivates, while a large number of people just choose to not bother. That they just, either they feel like their vote doesn't count, or they try and protest the election by not voting, which, in my opinion, is a very... I understand the sentiment, and I can agree with the sentiment, but in practice, actively works against your interests, because you not voting doesn't hurt those people who are running for office in any way. So, sure, it's a way of going, I don't believe in this, but, it literally helps more radical people accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. If you're going to do that, vote third party. You know, it is seen as throwing away your vote here, but if everyone did that, we would have a lot better chances of having third party wins and yada yada. We don't need to get into like all like different political parties or whatever and make that whole thing, but it's my personal belief that you should take advantage of those rights, because if not, you're at the mercy of whatever's there. If you don't like what's there, that's how you voice it. Like, that is a mechanism, that is a lever you can pull to do something about it. Even if it's not particularly effective in certain cases. But that's just my view. Alright, so we are live on everything. We're good here. I'm going to kill the in-game music, because after a while, having them going, well, everyone needs to get ready for the brownouts coming up, and you're like, I'm sitting at a surplus of 100 megawatts of power, and my city is using 20-something megawatts of power. I am not having brownouts. Stop lying. But yeah, so we're picking up where we left off with the city we've been building in City Skylines for the last couple of streams that we played the game. This is kind of our old town right now we've got going on here that we've been slowly building up. That's what you plan to do. You hate both candidates, so you're going to, quote-unquote, throw away your vote, vote independent. Yep. And that is, to me, that is a more meaningful decision than not voting. Because even if it is those things that between the two lead parties are going to capture 80% of the vote, and you're going to get like 20, and it's going to make no meaningful difference, if that 20 becomes 30%, becomes 40%, like that's how, like, you legitimize those third parties more and more by the more and more of the vote they get. And even if they don't actually capture the vote, if they get enough of a percent, oh, we're finally getting a residential built, or high-density residential. We were waiting on that last stream, they just weren't happening. So that means this whole area will start finally properly growing, because this has got lots of growing pains going on from it, because it was a gradual growth that's very organic. Versus this is a more green field where we've taken the time to be like, no, we're going to try and design it to be good for traffic and whatever. So we're working with all that. So that's all good news. But yeah, no, it basically legitimized the third parties that If you don't vote for them, they'll never have a chance. That said, there's definitely times where you feel pressure saying, well, they don't have a chance and this election's too important and yada yada yada. That's all those things you've got to make decisions as yourself. Like, that's what I'm saying. But to me, again, the wrong answer would be not voting. Because then you're just really... Not voting is just giving up. And just saying, hey, do what you want. Because that's ultimately what it turns out to be. You've let them win without resistance. But yeah, so this should be good for traffic because we have the main highway goes in. This is an in road, that is an out road. So all the cars will always enter this neighborhood from this side. If they want to go someplace here, they'll go on that angle. If they want to go this way, they'll go that way. You get the idea. There's only a couple ways through. So even if we get large volumes of cars, this should work pretty well for a while. This intersection might end up being a problem. What we can do if that ends up being the case, we can effectively have an off-ramp that loops over and goes over that way to keep them from crossing this way. The good news is there is not a situation where they should ever have a conflict going this way until I put more cars in this road. So they should be able to go through as fast as they can turn left. Why are you a light? Why are you a light? Don't do that. That's why that's backing up. Hey, get that crap out of here. Just go. Right now, there's only a left-hand turn, and then, like, the people going to the schools are right. There's nothing to go straight. There's no one going the other way. It's literally just left or right. So they should not have a need to stop. Why are you stopping? We do not need a light here as well. Cool. Because, yeah, so it's effectively like a highway. It's as fast as they can turn, as fast as they'll get around. Now, this one could potentially back up. You don't have a light, right? Cool. But yeah, and then we got walkways that go through here to avoid the pedestrian traffic at two of these major intersections. I honestly should have one over here, but we didn't build to begin with. So yeah, so we've got pretty good progress happening over here. We're finally seeing growth in this part of the city. We can probably go over here and start expanding into this one as well. I haven't set up the walkways here. I think I am going to go back to... I have a different walkway system I've used in the past. I'm going to go back to it because it's just better. So the way this other one would work is instead of like this one here where it's kind of butted up against there, is I actually have like back alleys that kind of go through the entire walkway. Did you build the telescope? No, that's right. We were saving up for the telescope. Thanks for the reminder. Because the telescope increases our graduation chances of people, which increases our education and yada yada yada. It does a lot of good stuff. Why is it saying slope too steep? There we go. Alright, because that gives me 5% more plus 5 university graduation rate citywide, which will just help her with our education and yada yada. Okay, so the next thing after that was I was going to build a hospital up here, because we're trying to make this like the really nice end of town for right now. Try and make this very attractive to draw people over here and away from Old Town. Because as you can see, Old Town still has traffic problems that I really can't alleviate without majorly tearing stuff down and doing major overhauls. And so what I'm doing in the interim is I am just trying my best to shuffle stuff around to try and alleviate that as much as we can. Cool. So we're working on it. Alright, so back to what I was saying with this over here. So the plan for this is, yeah, these buildings, so they can be 6 tiles by 6 tiles from the look of it. That's bigger than I thought they could be. Yeah, so 6 by 6. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is how high do these need to go to get over a road? Oh, we're still set to... Okay, that's enough. Alright. So with that, Ooh, is just one tick enough? Alright.
What in God's name is that spaghetti you have created? Well, no matter on to bed night all and Rual, make sure you rest, stretch and hydrate every once in a while.
Don't worry, I'll hydrate and all that. Yeah, what is the spaghetti over here? This is the city growing organically. It's not good. Yeah, so what you see here is how we deal with a lot of this. Oh, actually, that'll be fine. Alright. Yeah, so what'll happen here is, so now with this intersection, oh, I see what happened there. Oh, yeah, we don't want that. Yeah, so the idea behind this, though, is now we go and take this walkway. So this is the 6x6 that a area can take. Our goal here is to get it low enough that it attaches to this road. And then we'll get rid of that well, I mean, right now I might leave that crosswalk. We'll get rid of a bunch of crosswalks. But the idea is you have this walkway that goes around and it has a bunch of down ramps and it can kind of go anywhere. And we can get rid of a lot of this stuff where it could cross roads and all that. But it'll take a little bit of work to get that set up. Because you need some places that it goes over, and some places that it drops down. Alright. Yeah, so we've been gridding this out. So let's see. So over here we had our mixed zoning in there. So let's go ahead and do the same thing here. We got mixed zoning tile here and here. So that's one building. That's two. And for that matter, what we could do here, so have that be our down ramp there. So that'll fit two buildings, one building, one building, one building. And then we'll get rid of this ramp here and have it cut across. Okay. Let's see, why not just create a ground level path that elevate... Let's see, why not create a ground level path that elevates into the walk path? When you need to cross, like, why not just create a ground level path that elevates into that? So I could do that. Instead, what I could do... Actually, that's a fair point to go here. So instead of doing it that way, what I could do is right here. Yeah, so instead there, so now what I could do is I'd have the three buildings next to each other, and then this crosses the road. We can get rid of the crosswalk here entirely. But the goal here is to basically not have crosswalks. That's what we're trying to do here, is to just not have crosswalks so the cars are never impeded. And then at the same time, then the pedestrians are also never impeded. Now, the problem is when you have buildings that are big like this that you can't really work around those. Let's see, a ring road and walkway is not a bad idea if public transit is bad. A ring road. Oh, you mean a roundabout? Okay, so we've got that building. So what we could do is over here, we'll kind of do the same thing. It's been a while since I've done these. Where I've done the whole setup like this, where... Oh, did I do it? I think that's already... was dropping down there. Because I think the issue happening here is that the elevation's been going up. Alright. Well, that's interesting. So it's going to get mad at me for bringing that down there because it's going to get angry at this intersection. Let's see how many buildings this is. It'll be totally fine in some cases. We'll probably want to have a road through there. So let's get that road through the middle first, sorted out before we keep going with that. Then we can go ahead and bulldoze this. Let's see, in the UK in the 80s onward, they would build a road that goes around the whole town city to reduce congestion in it. Yeah, so that'd be like the highway system we've got out here. So this would go out and around, then we have the path that goes through the middle of the city just to get people there. And then we got this like main artery that feeds into these areas. And then that's where we get to our one-way roads that go into this area and then straight on through back out to the main artery. It's just we don't have it like fully developed yet and we're still working on it. And then these are just walking paths to try and keep as many vehicles off the road in the first place as we can. Wait, did I go from the outside in? I did. We'll keep it consistent. Oh, we did just cut through, because that's what I was doing originally, was to go that way. Sorry about that, the other side. Alright, so with this, we've got our commercial blocks here. And then the central area, we got our high-density offices. Okay, so that's bigger than the high-density office could be. So we'll go ahead and do the 6x6. Yeah, it's weird that it won't let me do that. That's an interesting thing, that because it's like on the seam, it's like, no, you can't do it. It's illegal. And I think it's accommodating this bridge that is the problem. So let's delete the bridge and see what happens if I'm not accommodating the bridge. That's exactly what it was. Is the fact that it's accommodating the bridge that's making it angry. And then suddenly it's okay with it. Oh, city skylines, you silly. I also hate this bridge real fast. Hang on, let's make this bridge less cursed. And the way we can do that is figure out what height they need to be for it to not be mad about it. Good enough. Okay. So with that, we no longer need any of the stuff here. Because we go through and there'll be no crosswalks in this entire area. I'm leaving the one at the school just because the way that walkway is. But we'll see what happens. Okay, we only have demand for the lower density residential. That's fine. One thing that is going to happen is the low density residential out here are going to go away. What zone are you? Oh, I see what's happened here. These have attached themselves to this middle route, and it's unhappy about that. So I might be able to change that to technically being a highway. And that'll make it connect down here, which gives me that one more spot to build. That'll help. So that way they're all attached to these middle roads. That's good. It's a bummer that I can probably have to put something here to fill in that space for aesthetic reasons. And eventually we'll get the office spaces here. I want to run the walk paths through this gap I made, which this will help with all that, having all those walking paths cutting through everywhere. Let's do the same thing we've been doing over with the others. Of course you're gonna fight me. There we go. So we've got our 6. Cool, we can get rid of the crosswalk here. So obviously this cuts down a lot on our building density, but that's not that big a deal. You got a giant map to deal with. You might as well put it to use. Okay, we can go over here. And then we'll start zoning all this stuff. But yeah, so you see we're basically getting all this walking. Let's see. Coverty is a big example because the whole city center is only taxis or buses. And the turnoffs are Ring Road, lead multi-story car parks and all. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff. The thing to keep in mind is this is City Skylines as well. So while it does do a lot of good simulation stuff, there's also a lot of stuff that really doesn't align with the real world. Yeah, we can keep going this way. You know, I want to probably connect here. Because I do want all these roads to connect everywhere we can make them happen. Running with this nonsense again. That's fine. So we'll try the same thing we did last time, which is we deleted the bridge. Where are you overlapping? What are you overlapping? You'd highlight red whatever you're overlapping. Try it from the other way. Okay, let's try cutting it back more. Complaining about overlapping, but that it's not highlighting what is actually overlapping. I don't... Because normally it highlights in red whatever you're overlapping. Yeah, it's just not happy to do that. That's fine. Actually, you know what? This will be a cursed thing to do, but... we'll connect this here. Then we'll get rid of that bridge. And have it drop down and see if it makes it happy. It's cursed because it means there's like this weird zigzag. Why are you fighting me on this game? You know what I want. Get rid of the bridge. It's just taking it there. Oh! You're complaining that it's... You're unhappy with the bridge all the way over there? Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, just the weird stuff you deal with, say, Skyline sometimes. That it does some wonky stuff to make what it wants work. And so sometimes you just do some wild stuff. So I can get rid of these to make space. And we can go to the same height that we get all that to work. And now you're angry about this for reasons I don't understand. Okay, there we go. Alright, we got that to work finally. Cool. So yeah, so we've got connections to all these city blocks, and that's basically what we're trying to do. Is make it so there's ramps so you can get to like this area. We'll probably have a ramp going up here somewhere. So like each city block can be accessed very easily from the overall walkway. We'll add more businesses in here. Right now we're not having much demand for a lot of these areas, so that's what we're dealing with here. So there's 6 here, 6 there, 6 here. 6. Okay, so if I were to do that... So yeah, if we go and do that, that'll be 1 full block. And go ahead and go out here to this. That'll be fine. Because I'm making sure to leave room for the walkway in between there. And honestly, this is the outside loop, so we can probably afford to just say, hey, just cram houses in this area. So 6 here. 6 there. Okay, we can probably go ahead, and honestly, I'm debating making a road that goes over top here, straight across, between the neighborhoods. I'm not sure if that'll create weird traffic patterns or not, but I'm down to find out. There, so I've got a road that does connect the different neighborhoods together, well, different blocks or whatever, without involving the main highway, which should be a good thing. And we'll have, like, walkways and that go around. Do I want a walkway that goes straight across this whole thing? Probably. One thing I don't want is I do not want a crosswalk here. Because this whole area, I want to have it requires 0 crosswalks, other than maybe just this one to the school. Just because the school's blocking me from making better walkways in this area. Alright, so we're still basically waiting on demand for more residential, and a big part of that is this garbage over here is just really hurting my city. Our happiness is going down. Mostly still due to poor garbage pickup that is because of traffic. If we just look at this whole area is just overly dense with people and causing gridlock. So that's going to be a problem. So the good news is we wanted to build another hospital over here. So let's go ahead and get on that, because that should help bring people back here. Which 90% of what I'm doing, that's related to what I'm working on is just... Okay, so you have small medical clinic. Oh, that's not what I want. That's why it's causing me a problem. Okay. Better chance for people to recover. Specialized treatment ward, which again, better stuff, and a helipad. So I basically got a fully fitted hospital right up there. Money is still doing extremely well, but that means now this part of town has its own hospital that we don't need to be worrying about problems there. Yeah, so we've got the elementary schools, the high school, and all that. One thing we are going to do is select districts. You only service... Actually, can I unselect these districts? You don't worry about Mill or Butler. You handle these districts only. And then this school... Those districts only. And the reason I'm doing that is I am trying to have these handle this back area. Oh, I saw the join queue? Yeah, let me go ahead and get rid of that. So the queue is closed, and we will unpin the message. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, so basically I'm trying to have this service just this area back here, and the idea is to, again, draw people out to this area. Make this a very attractive place for people to live, yada, yada, yada. And all that. The money's still just raking in and all that kind of good stuff. But the more we can draw people back here, the better. And then the idea will be the area over here, I am going to want to slowly... Like this area specifically here, and this area here are the problems. That I am going to try and get people out of these areas over here so that I can kind of go back and rework these roads to not be nearly a disaster. I'm honestly, with how much they tend to be wanting the lower density, I'm honestly really debating making this like the old town area where we'll switch all of this up to be lower density on these outsides. The middle can be, like the middle area can be the medium density. This can handle that. And that would help a lot. And we start building up our proper downtown over here. Because even as this place has 7,500 residents, there's like no traffic here. Whereas we go to this area, I mean, that's got 33,000 residents. But because of like how it's set up, it's just struggling. And that's because it can't get away with no crosswalks or whatever. Still not many people parking here either. Okay, and one of the other things I had on my list to put down was there's a botanical garden that gives 1,000 recreation. And I feel like if I drop a botanical garden up in this area, it should just really draw people in a very big way to this end of town. Now where I'm going to put the thing, that's a real question. Because on one hand, I could shove it off to the side here, because this block can have more to it. I feel like this can go over a little bit farther. And then maybe I put the botanical garden and that up here. Honestly, let's do this. Okay. How long was that road? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So you're 227 yards. That road over there is ever so slightly off. Just trying to fix it so we get nice square roads over here. Yeah, the reason we got the weird gap there is because of elevation change. Alright, so we've got that there. So we can expand this way a bit more. And this block is... Honestly, it's planned to put a big building of some kind over here, like the university or something, as opposed to trying to wedge stuff in, because then I can put stuff over there. Because that'll give us a lot of pain otherwise. So with that, we can probably plunk down the botanical garden over here somewhere. The thing is huge. It seems to cover, like, the whole city, just about. And for right now, I'll plan for all of this to be dense residential. Not there, because like I said, we're probably going to put a college or a university up here. This I'm going to leave open for putting trees around it, that kind of thing, and we might put a road there later. Down here, if we end up needing more commercial, that kind of thing, we can put that down here. So we can leave that the way it is for right now. So school-wise, how are we doing? We have a dire need for more elementary school. That is kind of a pain, honestly. Do you have enough room for... Is that the right thing? Oh, small entry. Oh, I forgot. They added new buildings. I was like, wait a second, what? So we have elementary school, urban elementary school. So it is a higher capacity elementary school? Interesting. Okay, so this is the stuff that happened, is they did add additional stuff. So let's grab the urban elementary school. So the urban elementary school is just a bigger elementary school capacity-wise in a smaller space. We can add extension floors onto the top. And we can add a courtyard playground. So yeah, so this is an elementary school that can handle 2,000 students versus the normal one can handle 1,500 students. So it's a higher capacity elementary school. Now, the downside being is this one gives outdoor recreation, this one does not. Which isn't honestly that big of a sacrifice in my book. We can go ahead and go here, grab our chestnut trees. I'm going to frame this out here. Let's just leave it alone for right now. We can frame it out later. So we've got that for more school coming in here. And we still don't have enough capacity. But since we have these urban elementary schools, is there an area where I'm seeing that I don't have the students? No. So I don't know where I really need the school. College is right up to the gills on its capacity. High school is getting pretty close. So I'm tempted to get rid of the current high school here, just straight up delete it and put in an urban high school, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. So that high school's gone. And before it can update everything, I'm gonna say I would like an urban high school. So all of these are just smaller footprint schools with higher capacity. Alright, so I need to let go for a minute. So right now, that's serving how many students? That's not quite as big as it was before yet. But when I upgrade this, it'll have some similar capacity to what it had before. We can go from there. Yeah, so basically it's going to shrink the footprint of my schools, which is fair. I didn't look at the cost difference. So your upkeep is 22,000. So literally the upkeep is the same. In this case, the urban elementary school is a bit more, but the high schools look like they're almost the same capacity. It's just I'm giving up a slightly improved graduation rate. And instead, what I'm getting is, you know, more condensed. You didn't realize how many botanical gardens the U.S. has? Oh yeah, they are. I think it probably varies state by state on how much you have, but they are not uncommon. Like, I do know of just, like, even just in Central Florida, not even going that far out, I know at least 6 without leaving Central Florida. And they're different sizes. There's some that are, like, you know, kind of like relatively small city garden kind of things. And then there's some that, you know, are absolutely ridiculously large. Like, it's not near me, but there's this one called Bach Tower. And that is a pretty substantial botanical garden. I also want to say, not counting the panhandle of Florida, I want to say that's the highest elevation area in the state. I could be wrong. Hi, wifey. Your school wasn't as cool as this school. That school has sports stuff on its roof.
My school had sports stuff on the ground.
Exactly. Who wants to be on the absolute boring ground?
I'm outdoor. Oh, I love you.
I love you more.
I'm starting to budgie vines.
You sleep well.
You sleep well, remember me.
I will remember you. Also, your school wasn't surrounded by chestnut trees. I am going to get rid of this weird border out here of chestnut trees, though. When it's surrounding the buildings and that, it looks good, but when it's just like a weird board in the middle, it looks strange. Oh, right. This game you can click and drag over stuff. I forgot that's a thing. Alright. Cool. So we did compress that. So that one handles 1,200 students. What is the other high school handle? We should have another high school over here somewhere. That's the college. Where is our high school? Elementary, elementary. Yeah, so it's 1,200 for this school, and then this school has also 1,200. So they're the same size in regards to the number of students they facilitate, but they also take way less space. So if you're like trying to fit them in city blocks and all that, it works out pretty well. Alright, so we've got that sorted out. We're also about to level up from huge city to the next tier higher very soon. And we are seeing that slowly, progressively go up. And the recreational, sorry, the botanical gardens are doing extremely well. Alright. Right now I'm going to leave those what they are, but those will be building up in density as time goes on. So you're maxed out, you're maxed out, you're maxed out. Honestly, the urban elementary schools, those are going to work out really well, because I want to say... Are you 6x6? No, you're ever so slightly larger. You're just big enough that if I tried to squeeze it in one of these grid spots, you're ever so slightly bigger than those buildings. That's fine, but it's way smaller. If we look at the footprint from the other school versus this one, it's literally like a third, not counting the playground, size. So that does give me a lot more functionality so far as squeezing it into like the various neighborhoods and that kind of stuff. So you almost feel like move it into this area. Because by mashing it in here, it'll line up with a bunch of stuff, other stuff better. And that opens up this space for the buildings I can't make smaller, so stuff like the college and whatnot. I also didn't look... Yeah, so we don't get a different college and all that kind of stuff. I didn't look at the other service buildings we got. So we got Firehouse and Urban Firehouse. The Urban Firehouse costs a little bit more, but gives me more engines. And then police, we've got... Oh, yeah, and we also have the small police stations now. And then we have the urban police station, which, again, the urban versus the regular one, it seems like the urban one is more compact, but has a bit more capacity and a little bit more expense. Yeah, we've got small bus stations on... Yeah, so it looks like what they've done is they've added a bunch of buildings with the update to kind of accommodate if you're going to have a smaller city or lower density and you want to make it work. So for an area like this, a medical center might, I mean, this is probably fine, but like for, let's say, these neighborhoods over here. Like some of these neighborhoods, a full-on medical clinic might be kind of overkill for them, where having more locally deposited small medical areas might be good, because then I could potentially have a small medical center that only serves these two neighborhoods to avoid having our hearses and our ambulances and that zipping around all over the place, blocking up traffic. So that's good news. All right. Let's see. Next level from Huge City to Concrete Jungle. Well, we're about to find out. The next XP tick will probably be it. The next milestone is Grand City, which then goes to Metropolis, then to Thriving Metropolis. And for the most part, where we're at now, we'll just get research points and more land from here on out. We have unlocked all... There it goes. We have unlocked all the buildings that are blocked behind different levels, and now it's all the research stuff. Okay. So, I have 14 points of research. We could start going into tourist attractions and all that. We could get the airport, which wouldn't be a bad move. I don't really need much in the way of law enforcement or fire right now. We could get the Large Hadron Collider, which will help with our office job. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to probably make terrible decisions and get the hydroelectric plant, and that's certainly going to cause us to make really bad choices soon. And from here... I could get the prison, I could get the regular planes, I could get the sports center, I could get the server farm, which... Let's get the large parks. Where was the other one? We had another one worth 2. The water treatment plant would be nice, but I don't really feel like I need that right now. We'll get the water thing while we're here. Okay. So, we're now a Grand City. And where I mentioned I was going to make a terrible decision, you don't understand. Alright, so the Large Hadron Collider is $4 million. So as you can see, it'll increase the demand for software electronics. It'll increase the demand for a university. It'll also increase the production efficiency of software electronics. So I do think we do that, because that should put a lot of demand on our offices, because right now our offices are basically not making any progress. The boats, I don't see us doing much with those, but I grabbed them anyways. We do have some more fancy parks now. I probably won't use most of those, but we'll see. So we can go over the 4 million for the Hadron Collider, and I do think I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where this is kind of like our higher education corner sector, whatever you want to call it. It's just an area that we've been putting a bunch of our administration and education stuff. It's got its own expressway entrance, that kind of thing. Sorry about that. Alright. Oh, we have demand for industry. Okay, so it looks like we're getting demand for industrial zones. We haven't had that in a while. Let's see if there's anything we don't currently have. That's not what I want. Anything we don't currently have enough production of. So we finally hit the point that our grain production is not adequate for what we're doing. We also are importing a lot of electronics. So we definitely want to expand our electronics. Yeah, so actually I have a lot of just generic industry that needs to be upgraded. Okay, is traffic here okay? It's doing alright. It's not great. But what I am gonna do for right now, though, is I'm gonna ignore any problems we're having with it. And I'm just going to straight up expand our industrial area. Because that is a problem. Honestly, so I didn't want to run stuff through here, but I'm going to. Here's what we can do to make this not as terrible. I can run you this way. And then you go out that way. You can go right on back. Now put this base to use. And that means, basically, if you want to go back in this loop, you got to get off that road and then back on. It should be relatively minor conflict on that. But hopefully that one will fill up our industrial demand a little bit. And then also, as I mentioned before, it does look like when it comes to our production, we are hitting a point where our industry is falling behind on our electronics production and our food production. Material goods, we have no deficits. Sorry, in material goods, we have no deficits. So software, all of that, we're good. But we now are importing stuff to support our software industry and all that. And then we have a tiny bit of reduction on our grain production that I am going to need to set up another grain farm. Let's see what we've got here for nearby resources. I've got a tiny little area of field I can do over there. We've got an area across the street here, which is probably our best bet, is to expand out here, grab that, make that into grain there. I don't really want to do that until we get our Hadron Collider, though. But what that should do is that'll boost our attendance to our university, boost our graduation rate of our universities, boost our software and our electronics industries. All of which are lower pollution than a lot of the other stuff we're doing. So that is one of the benefits, is it's more lucrative overall and it's less pollution. And I do see the downtown area is slowly expanding. We're starting to get some of our high density residential going on over here. Let's see, you can do the same for garbage, like police and healthcare. Have local recycle centers reduce the garbage truck's journey. Yeah. Yep. Because right now I have one giant recycling center doing its best. And the idea is, what I can do here is I can pop into the trying to remember where you're over here. So we've got the landfill, we got the incinerator plant, we got the recycling center. Then the industrial hazard waste one can do an absolutely absurd amount of stuff. I do ultimately want to get that, but I could sit here and turn around and put a recycling center up here. The downside is the recycling center does cause a decent amount of ground pollution, but it wouldn't hurt. But that is part of the way I can improve a lot of these situations. Like, one of the things I could do to improve this would honestly be potentially putting a clinic in this area and say this clinic serves only this neighborhood. And that would help with alleviating a lot of that. It's kind of where I'm at some of the things with like these crematoriums and all that, where I just don't need them everywhere. That's kind of a thing. I do think it'd be worthwhile to get this area being served by a separate recycling center. I can see maybe putting like the industrial recycling area, having it serve this neighborhood and this thing. So basically have the river, this side of the river is that, and then the existing one only serves that side of the river. That said, that is going to be another thing on the pool. But the reason I'm saying the dam is probably a bad idea is what I intend on doing is basically something along the lines of that. The catch is, I need to make sure it's lower than this ridge right here. So I wish it would tell me, I wish there was a way I could see what your elevation is here. And the reason is there is if I go higher than that, then the water goes out the back. Because all the rest of that's just a giant area. But that ridge is the lowest spot. Okay, but on the good news of it, it would appear that's higher than almost all of this over here. Because I have to do like a weird zigzag to get over these cliffs. So it should be just good. That unless I build it super duper high, we'll be fine. So if I go down here somewhere like this, that should be fine. I actually don't expect that to make me great amounts of power. But I like the idea of making a giant, absurdly large reservoir just because I can. Not because it strategically makes sense. Oh, how much did it say that dam was? I'm sure it's obnoxious. Honestly, not as bad as I thought. Like, probably by the time I'm all set up, 7-8 million. Yeah, so for where that's up, I can actually go a bit higher than that pad there. And honestly, when you cut across here, wherever it meets. So if I use this as my marker, I can go from there about that far up. And then we could just smash that right over there. So it'll be about 8 million. Because, yeah, it's 7.5, but I'm going to have some other expenses to get all set up. And then I'll have to adjust some of the river down here. When I do that, my entire water infrastructure is going to absolutely crash and burn until that fills up. which is a reason I'm saying it's a really bad idea. So you're getting a little mad due to poor garbage service. So like I said, I could... The big problem is having the recycling center here will hurt all of these ones with the pollution. You know, having toxic waste located directly next to your hospital. But like I said, I do feel like I could put it over here when I go to expand anyways to make that dam available, and then just put a recycling center directly off the main highway that only serves this side of the highway, and then detach this from that side of the highway. Okay. So we still need more schools. Yeah, so we still need another elementary school. It'd be nice if this was one tile smaller just so I could wedge it in there. It's fine. I can put it here. They give me room to drop the road. Yeah, they give me room to drop the path here. Actually, that's a good spot for it. Call it Rual dams instead of Hoover dams so we can know who to blame. Sorry, Praise. Yes. These are not mutually exclusive things. Okay, so with that said, we can go here, grab the walkway.
Oh no, I no longer have 100,000 stonks. My quest for total domination is being set back. What will I do?
I guess you'll have to wait till you can get some more stonks. Okay. So I've got that attached. We can go over here. And we'll add the density over there. Have you situated. Cool. Alright. So that just gave us more walkways to reach that area. That's the reason it's taking the time to do that. So again, the idea is everyone will either walk along the inside or outside wherever they're at, or they use these to switch over. These will end up getting really dense number of walkers on the down low. Right now, we don't have the residentials here yet. That's already maxed out. It's been open for like 30 seconds. It's already maxed out. Instantly, the urban school there, no capacity left. That said, we technically do have enough capacity now. Barely. The university, like, all of these we technically have enough capacity. It's not necessarily where we need it, though. A medical university, I totally forgot about that being a thing. We'll want to build that as well. I think the Hydron Collider I want more right now. If we were to build the medical university, how big are you? So you're not actually that big. You're interestingly narrow on top of that. So I could honestly fit that in some pretty interesting locations. Nowhere right here. I could put you right here, honestly. Wouldn't be the worst. That would basically shut off this entire area for being usable, though. Versus, I could also see potentially moving the schools around and then, like, putting it in an area like this. And that could be a useful thing. It's a shame you just don't fit here slightly. Or here, for that matter. Or here. Actually, you know what I could do? I bet you... Oh, you know what I could do? I could just plop it on the main highway. Because now I can build any houses off this. So I can plop this right here on the main highway, and that could be the university. Because that would give us the medical school over here, again, to draw more demand on this side of the map. I don't plan on building, like, that would make it so I can fill up this area up here that's this weird, narrow area. That'd be good. We'll do that after the Hadron Collider. Oh, the demand for commercial is rising. That's fine. So we'll do the same thing we did on this side, which is we'll put our high-density commercial. So we've got 6. Yeah, it'll be just the whole area. So there goes a bunch of commercial to be added in. And slowly that other part of the map is going to build up. Sorry about that. And I'm half tempted to take this and say, you only serve these areas over here, and then leave this hospital for serving this small area right there and this. It wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, we don't really have the ambulances out there, so that's fine. I am noticing the garbage is mostly keeping up now. Because we did do a lot of work on our traffic patterns and the garbage specifically before. It's still got some blinking areas, but it is... Oh. Our pop music mansion is complaining about high rent? So are you telling me we have a famous pop musician on our place? They're like, the rent is too dang high. I can't live here. Yeah, the population is still building up, and we have happy people. Like, the big thing that's hurting our happy people has been entirely traffic. But that's why we're slowly fixing the area by, like, newly designed stuff. I do like these urban buildings. The downside is, obviously, they don't have quite as much character as having, like, this big center and having, like, that in the middle of it. But for practicality purposes, having narrow buildings that we could wedge in here is pretty good. Because it is slightly bigger than you can get these buildings to. Versus this monstrosity is like, you know, 2 city blocks. It also is nice to have a school that doesn't look like just, you know, the elementary school you just find in the middle of the burbs or whatever. I do wonder about deliberately making a city that I have a whole bunch of, like, small neighborhood schools and all that, so, like, each little district has, like, their own self-sufficient between their elementary schools and all that. The high schools you'd probably, you know, want to expand out more than just one district, realistically. No, we only got 2 up arrows for our money. It says only 2 up arrows, yet I'm seeing 3.4 million monthly revenue. Granted, we're making about $14 million in taxes a month, about $2.5 million in service fees. What? Okay, we can actually, hang on. So our population is supposedly 70,000. Wait a second, some math needs to happen here. All right, calculator, we need to talk. Okay, so our population is, we'll just say it's 70,000. We'll make the math generous. So 70,000. Actually, here we need to do this the other way around. 14 million divided by 70,000 in theory, I mean, I guess that's $200 a month. I guess that's actually not that unreasonable. I was sitting there thinking, like, wait, how much are my citizens chucking into taxes in the average month? I'm like, okay, $200 on average for your just ambiguous taxes. That's actually not that unreasonable. Because if you think of, like, you know, you're living in a very high density area, this would be a very expensive place to live and all that, and going, okay, oh, how much of your population children? This is fair. Children don't pay taxes. You'd have to be talking household rates, which I don't think we have that consideration. Yeah, so if we look at if we keep it to just adults and seniors, those will be the only ones paying for taxes. So we're talking about 45,000. So let's take that into consideration. Well, I mean, we could do the math in our head, and it'd be about $400 a month on average. So that's still not that bad, all things considered. Considering we're talking, this is like a very expensive place to live. That isn't the worst in the world. Because if you think over the course of an entire year, you're talking $2,800, which, don't get me wrong, that's some heckin' taxes. But considering they don't go in and say, well, here's your sales tax, well, here's your, here's your sales tax, do you have a local income tax, do you have this tax, do you have a road tax, do you have that tax? They just kind of magic it into this zone tax, this zone tax, this zone tax. For an expensive area, while that is expensive taxes, it's not the level of taxes where you'd be like, oh my god, no one's going to make it. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're in the middle of like out in rural Idaho and someone's charging you $2,800 in taxes a year, yeah, you're going to be absolutely livid, not counting federal income tax, because that would imply you're making a crap ton of money. So, not even a crap ton. $2,800 for your federal income tax would be barely noteworthy if you're making over minimum wage. I shouldn't say barely noteworthy. It's about what you'd expect. But the point being, for our local taxes here, honestly, that could be worse, because that would include our property taxes and all of our other taxes. So honestly, $800, like, not awful. Granted, their wealth is still wretched, but we go to some of these areas, and like they're comfortable levels of wealth. I don't know how they're doing now with all their cursed problems going on here. They're still wealthy in this area. This area is still wealthy. This area is now wealthy. These areas, it feels like no matter what I do, low density are almost always really, really bad. That area became wealthy. So that's actually the first exception we've had, is this is mostly low density up there. This will be wretched over here. Yeah, so this one's comfortable. These don't have people in them yet. This is comfortable. But yeah, so it's all these ones that seem to really be struggling with really bad wealth. Like, no matter where I seem to put low density, they seem to be struggling with, like, really bad wealth. Okay, we got more desire for industry and commercial. You still seem to be holding up okay. Where can I put some more industry that it won't be in the way or a problem to some? Because the problem is the wind flows this way, so if I were to start building up industry over here, for example, it would drag it across my city. So I could shove industry down here, but it'd be on these gravel roads and it'd have to go through the main artery of city, which, needless to say, would be bad. I could expand over this way and just build more out there. Wasn't this also where I wanted to go for... Oh, we can do the Hadron Collider. We've reached that point. Oh yeah, the Large Hadron Collider is, this might surprise you, chat, but the Large Hadron Collider is kind of large. Why are you complaining about water and all that when you're hooked up to this road? You've got water connection. Oh. Oh, you take some water. Wait. Do you really take that much water, or has something gone horrifically wrong with my grid that my water availability is now... Okay, my entire water grid is shut down for some reason. Okay, let's upgrade you. And you. And our sewage processing has suddenly imploded. Reduce the amount of pollutants in the water before it's expelled. I don't care about that much, right? Extra setting tank. Reduce the amount of contaminants in the sewage being expelled. Don't care about that right now. We'll care about that eventually. I don't... You know what I bet you it is? I bet you it's just the other part of town has started building up. Okay, so we need to get this all connected up because you should be connected. Oh, well, that pipe is entirely unnecessary. Alright, so our water is nearing capacity. We'll need a little bit extra. Dang. That went from everything is fine to we are not even remotely keeping pace in like 0 seconds flat. How's our water now? Okay. Was that all from the collider, or? Okay. Yeesh. I just looked like, why aren't you getting water? You're connected, and well, did we have like, no, we didn't have like explosive population growth. And at first when I saw it was just the water being drawn, I thought it was we were pumping up enough water to be affecting the water level, because that was the thing that you could do in, say, Skylines 1, is you'd have like a canal go off, and if you had enough water pumps on it, you could literally drain the water going into the canal as fast as it's going in, to the point that your later water pumps would start turning off and on because no water was getting down there because you're sucking it all up. That would be a problem because I would worry about this potentially going... Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Okay, so we have water flow here. So, yeah, so we've got a water source over here. So, yeah, that means I could probably dam off this part of the river and have no consequences. Because the water would continue pushing this way. Like, you'd have some weird flow here around the island until it's settled. But it shouldn't collapse my entire everything. So with that said... The area I'm looking at blocking off with the dam was using that as our point of reference, going up the hill just a little bit. And then honestly, go to this ridge here and set it across there. So $8 million for that area. But the thing that needs to happen for that to be a possibility is I need to go here. I would need this tile, 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 and that tile probably. So we're looking, probably by the time we're done, $10 million project. A $10 million project that I will add, I don't need to do. In any way. I just want to do it because I want to see that fill up with water. Yeah, no, I mean, well, the getting started with it is saving money. A $10 million project that you don't need to do sounds British. I don't have. What's your beaver population? Oh, wrong game. Yeah, it's exactly. It's like, I want to timberborn this forest. This whole area here, I want to make this into one giant reservoir. And we already did the thing where we checked this is the low point that I have to worry about. Like, if I go higher than that, we're in bad luck. But the thing I hadn't accounted for is when we look at this ridge, this whole area goes uphill. So this area cutting across here, like I'm doing, is still probably down this elevation. But, you know, I don't want to risk being right at that line, because if I'm even a hair over, all the water spills out the wrong side. We'll see how long that would take to fill. Alright, meanwhile, let's look at our education stuff. Okay, education-wise, we're exactly on the fence that we can handle 17,500 students, and we have 17,494 students. And that's kind of where we're at with everything, except the university. The university, actually, we have more than we need. We're still not seeing any of that stuff get built. We also are seeing more demand for commercial. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I mentioned rezoning these eventually. So I'm going to rezone this area over here, because that's low population residential I put in place temporarily, just to try and get some people up here to get the ball rolling, versus now we've got people here. So we do the mixed zoning there, we should be able to build that up. That'll bring more commercial into the area. You know, put commercial along this road as well. Yeah, so we're building up this area as best we can. Oh, was there... Yeah, so we've got oil right there, and we've got this here. So that's good, because we're getting close to our oil to the point where I'm gonna be using more than I'm producing. So I could put like a really small grain farm down here, put the oil production up here, have this, you know, overlooking it all. Maybe this becomes an industrial area and we just hope that the pollution disperses before it goes over our city. That's definitely the way you want your government to handle its stuff, saying, well, we hope the pollution disperses before it impacts the residential people. But, you know, we're gonna do our thing anyway. Japan? I have no idea about Japan when it comes to that stuff. Alright. The first phase is going to be buying up all this land. Gonna have to ask you to keep it in English. I do have an obligation to moderate, which unfortunately means if I can't understand you, I can't tell what you're saying, which means I have to enforce it has to be English. Because just I have no idea what you're saying. You'd be saying some of the most awful things in the world, and I'd be blissfully unaware. And as a reminder, I am streaming on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, so if it ever seems like I'm talking to someone who's not there, usually if like someone asks a question on one platform or another, I will read out the question before I answer it. And that's not even because I'm multi-platform. I've done that beforehand because a lot of people lurk where they'll be playing a game and they'll keep a stream going in the background, or, you know, they'll be cleaning the dishes in their kitchen or whatever they got going and have, you know, stream as background noise. And by reading out the questions, it makes it so the conversation keeps context and all that. Versus if you strictly answer stuff, then that. But if it's stuff like people saying, like, how are you? Usually I'll just say, you know, oh, I'm doing good or something. Because I feel like the question isn't... Repeating the question isn't that relevant because the answer provides the context, is the way I will phrase it. Alright. Let's go buy some heckin' land. So again, this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile. So 1.5 million to buy that. And that'll let me put the industry area here, and then the oil area there. And we could just gravel road directly to the highway. That's a thing you actually do see in real life, where you'll just have a highway and there'll just be this, like, you know, like, warning, trucks entering the road sign or whatever. And I don't know what it's got to be like to, you know, be trying to pull onto the road and a semi loaded down with goods, and the speed limit is like 75 miles per hour zipping past, and your vehicle, you know, gets, you know, 0 in the 50 in somewhere in the area of like 3 minutes. I I couldn't imagine trying to pull out like that. That's those ones that you wait to the gap and you just start going, be like, man, I really hope those other cars are paying attention because I'm already coming out here and there's nothing more I can do. Alright, well, unfortunately, you're not listening to the fact that I said I do have to, require you to be in English, so I will be timing you out. Sorry, man. I got no beef with any place. I just have an obligation to moderate, and I can only moderate in languages I speak.
Hello there.
Hey, Bentley, how's it going? Elevation to... Oh, it's saying the elevation trying to... Not on a shoreline. In the water. Not on a shoreline. But... there is water going through here. I want to build it anyways. Oh, the yellow means it'll still do it. It's just saying, hey, you're doing this... This might not be a smart idea. I'm doing good, Bentley. Yeah, so it's saying I don't have enough money, not on the shoreline. But yeah, so it's an orange thing, not a red thing. So it's still let me build the not on a shoreline, and that's fine. But that's $7.3 million to do that. So worry about that here in a little bit. In the meantime, we can go down here and say, I would like another grain farm. And this is not going to be one that's worth doing multiple locations on here, I don't think. So you go ahead and pop this right there. Oh, let's do that real fast. We can go here and grab the gravel road. Can't see what's actually happened with that. Alright, so I've got a gravel road that comes off the highway. Oh, right, you're gonna need to have... Oh, that is way deeper than you are. I understand why it's complaining. Okay, we'll need to run power line over here. Well, I don't want to run a transformer just for you. So I can run this down all the way over here. Cool. And now I go to you, and we want to change the shape of that to take as much advantage of this area as we can. There's probably some of that underwater as well, but we can't see it. All right. Hello, how's it going? Let's see, let's flood the whole city with an earthquake. Well, I am planning on trying to put a dam across this whole area, and I'm not expecting it to be a smooth experience. Is very much, I went to get him like, hey, this is a bad idea. And then, of course, I proceeded to do it anyways. That's just how this works. Man, that's actually a pretty good oil field. So we go like that, I could probably get more of it than any other angle. So same ideas. Let's go ahead and get our gravel road. Bad idea. What's the worst that could happen? Either A, the entire city finds itself with no water. B, the entire city finds itself with entirely too much water where it doesn't really want water to be. There's a couple things that could go wrong, to say the least. All right. Scooch that out here. I'm just gonna cover up as much as we can for a giant oil production. And then meanwhile, same thing as last time, I will have to connect it up to... You need to be much higher than that. There you go. So that hooks it up to the water infrastructure. Okay, so you should be all hooked up now. Cool. Yeah, it's fine. We'll just leave it the way it is. Alright. So we've got some industry and all that. So now if we go back to our production. So we still are short on grains. And we're getting worse. We built the right type of farm, right? Yeah, no, this is the right farm. It is a grain farm. It's probably just the amounts we're talking here. I'm gonna need way more. Is there any resources back here as I go to flood this? Oh yeah, this is all fertile soil and lots of ore and some oil up there. Yep, we're just gonna make all of that inaccessible. Perfect. I'll take it. Man, you still want more commercial? I mean, I'm down to give you more commercial. I just keep being surprised by how much you want. And I could put commercial along this main road going in. I've been trying to avoid that, but I think we'll go for it. And I'm skipping the one line along the edge there, so that it's all on this road and not on this road. And the reason I wasn't going to do that is because that means there's now places on this road that people want to stop. But we'll see. If it becomes a problem, we can tear it up later. But the demand for commercial just keeps growing. Let's also take a look at our pollution situation. So we have our water pollution, which is almost entirely just that area there. And then the oil production over there is going to be no good for the water. We also have where our geothermal is. The geothermal is really messing with the water over there, but we're relatively okay. We can look at our noise pollution. I don't really care. We can look at our ground pollution. So this is the big thing it's talking about, is that recycling center. The recycling center just straight up poisons the ground. And they got our air pollution. We've got a little pocket of air pollution here that is cutting across a residential low residential area, so that's not really good. We'll definitely want to deal with that. Workplace availability. Yeah, the whole city's well covered with that. How are we doing so far as this goes? We still are doing great. We're at 1 point something percent unemployment, fluctuating a little bit between 1.4 and 1.8, which is really good. And whatnot. Yeah, this area is now wealthy. That area is comfortable. Those areas don't have people in them yet. And this area is still marked as wretched. Yeah, it's talking about all the schools and all that support all this. Okay, so those schools are starting to balance out how many students they have in them. Because, like, this one... Well, never mind, it's... Oh, I see, this is the high school. So we still have more need for elementary schools. It's still hovering right at the fence there. You know, I got you. You don't need to, especially when you can see, like, your message is only 1 or 2 messages early. Yeah, no, I get the idea that they better learn to swim. Yep. Wasn't trying to not acknowledge it or whatever. But we're gonna be sorting all that out. It'll be good to start fixing Old Town. Man, and that demand for commercial is just growing. We built all of that up, and instantly it's like, no, more. Yeah, sure, maybe this block will be commercial as well. The commercial is just growing so aggressively right now. It's also curious we're still not getting these offices in here. Maybe we'll try doing it just for the moment. We'll switch these to low density. And see if that'll cause it to go. Oh, we've got crime over here. Well, I mean, that should be sorted out. You literally have the police headquarters right up the road. And they only got 3 other vehicles out dealing with that. So that should be quick. Offices works for nerds. I mean, but we have all the education. Like, all the education stuff happening here. I'm trying real hard to not have to build the recycling center. I want to save up for this major project. We got about $7,000 more to put into it. Well, 7.5. Not thousand, million. And I'll be able to slowly watch as our reservoir builds in this whole area. Yeah, so some of them are going, our rent is getting too high. Do we have any of the more of, like, the monuments or anything to build? So we do have the Grand Hotel, which provides a ridiculous amount of indoor recreation. That costs all our money, though, which doesn't excite me. And it makes the city more attractive. Yeah, we've got all our parks and all that add attractiveness. There were other places we had those like monument kind of things. Was it literally just this? No, there was another place where you unlocked buildings. There, this is the other one. That basically for doing certain things you can unlock special buildings. So like if we do more EU mixed zoning buildings, we can get a boost to our attractiveness all the way around. More industrial manufacturing and all that, those all give me things. There is one of your achievements is to literally get all of these buildings in a single city. Ooh. Oh yeah, these are the office buildings. Yep. Why didn't Cities 2 make it compatible for Mac OS? You'll have to ask the devs. I mean, there's an extra amount of labor that goes into it. So I could certainly see if City Skylines 1, if they made it, you know, compatible with Mac OS, and then they went, wait a second, like we put all this time and effort into it and we just didn't make sales. That's enough of a reason to not do it. And unfortunately, reality is, when it comes to market share in game purchases, Mac OS is not as big of a competitor in there. So there's lots of things to go there, but that'd be something you'd have to check with them. Quite often, Mac OS gets left out when it comes to games being supported. Especially if they're using newer tech, a lot of times Mac OS gets things quite later. Hey, Sim! Reporting from tropical Hawaii, remembering that what it's like to have that unhinged feeling that comes from being in humid place. I feel like I understand you more. Yeah, at least my understanding is Hawaii. There is lots of moving air, is the way I'll say that. Considering, I think it's in Hawaiian. There's like over 100 different words for wind, which it has to do with like wind kind of going up, wind going down. Like it's not all those words for one thing. They have a lot of nuance around wind. But yeah, no, it's good to see you. For those who don't know, Simcopter1, an absolutely fantastic creator on the platform. Let me go ahead and get a shout out. Definitely worth checking out. Plays a lot of simulation and strategy games and all that kind of good stuff. Definitely recommend them. Been playing some Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Was playing some Time Guesser the other day, which is kind of like GeoGuessr, but you guess like the year a photo was taken as well. Put a lot of historic events in there. Some of them are a little rough to see. Not like I mean, there probably was some that get to the point of cruise, but like, you know, they had where like disasters had happened and there are pictures from where the disaster happened. But yeah, no, good stuff. There is law here too. Yes. But yeah, some of them you see there like, okay, that is a historically relevant picture, but also that's a tough one to think about. Let's see. Yeah, it stinks. You only so you bought it only to realize it wasn't compatible, so you had to return it. Oh well. Yeah, that's it's a very difficult thing. Like it's one of those things that you'll have a lot of people who will be like, yeah, you should definitely, you know, you should switch off Windows to Linux, you should switch off Windows and use Mac OS. It's like, okay. Genuinely, I do believe that all three of those operating systems can be just as usable as each other. I will say Linux is far less user-friendly than the other two. It is more, I would not recommend Linux unless someone is like to a power level user understanding or more. But the reality is if you're looking at gaming specifically, or something else that you're going to be using like the top of the line commercial software, there is a lot of that stuff that only comes out for Windows and does not support the other ones. So that is a consideration to make. And I have absolutely used Linux as my main driver for a couple of years while I was in college. I've used Mac OS as my main driver in one of my software dev jobs, where I was also doing the teaching side of it, which we ended up having to switch off of Mac OS because it was too limiting for us, unfortunately. Which, low-key, I personally didn't enjoy using Mac OS, but that was more me being used to Windows than anything with Mac OS specifically. Like that was a preference issue, not a this one's worse. It was I was used to Windows, I preferred Windows, and all that. But also, the technologies I was teaching are primarily used on Windows, so I was having to try and fight and shoehorn macOS into doing something that it really wasn't meant to. But it is a difficulty that if you get yourself locked in on macOS, you are going to be limiting some of the games you can choose. Now that said, these days, it's way better than it's ever been. It very much used to be all of the new games never came out with consideration of Linux or macOS. You had to like take those operating things, get like Wine or one of these other things to effectively virtual machine the game on your stuff, which means you had like your operating system and then like a skeleton version of another operating system running inside your operating system to then run the game. So there's performance implications that were really rough in the past. And a lot of that's gotten way better than it's ever been. And I'll say honestly, for Linux nowadays, you can run most games on Linux okay. There are some games that are using newer tech that aren't going to run for you. And then there are a lot of games, especially when you get to like online multiplayer kind of games that have like anti-cheat type tech, that a lot of that anti-cheat tech will detect Linux as cheating. And it's because they see it as a virtual machine. And virtual machine is one of the ways that people will do cheats but try and hide it. So I'm not saying that's right or good or whatever, but it is a consideration when choosing your operating system. So these days, if you're not sure, you should probably go with Windows. And then even then, like for gaming, to be clear, the context here is gaming. It used to be back in the day that if you wanted to do creative pursuits, then Mac OS was king, but those days have mostly left us. So Windows 11 is a really good ad for Linux. You're seriously thinking about leaving Windows? I hear a lot of people making that thing. Now, I do know there's like the Windows AI thing that they were coming out with, and they went, wait, we'll delay it after they got like huge public outcry against it. And to be fair, it was only going to be in the hardware that is specifically designed with the AI chips. And yes, I understand people's like, you mean for now? It's like, you might be right. But right now, AI is the tech buzzword. And a lot of what we're seeing AI doing right now is going to become, not gone, but it's going to be heavily mitigated. There is good places for AI to do things, but now people are currently in that put AI on everything because it's the latest buzzword, and then that'll calm down, and then the AI will mostly stick to the stuff that, you know, financially makes sense for companies to do. So I'm going, Time Guesser is tricky because it's a neat idea, but some of the images are rough, bring up difficult history. With that said, you're glad you gave it a shot. Chat has been pitching it for a while, and trying new things is important, especially as a streamer. Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like, and I only caught like part of it, and I still think it was good. And yeah, it did bring up conversations. You're like, oh, I know what this is. Looked like fun for a little bit. Yeah, no, it looked like fun, but there's definitely some pictures you brought up. You're like, oh, this is not a conversation I was ready to have. But I mean, it's here, so it's kind of hard to not have this conversation, which is totally fine. But it looked good. Like, it looked interesting. I'm hesitant to stream it myself. But it does look like a good game. But that's kind of one of those things that when you get to those serious topics, there is a lot of juggling you do going, okay, well, you don't want to not talk about stuff because they're just difficult in general, you know, because it's good to have those conversations. At the same time, sometimes you're like, all right, but if people are using, you know, if people are coming here for escapism and all that, is this detracting from that kind of thing? But yeah, no, like with Windows 11, you had a whole bunch of people going, oh my god, it tracks you. It's like, you can turn it all off. Like, you can turn off all of the meaningful tracking. Oh my god, there's ads. It's like, I hate to break it to you, but like, just about everything has ads in it. Even if you go into Linux, you're going to boot up your games, and guess what? There's going to be ads in them. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but there's that. But that said, most of the stuff I've seen people complain about, like ads with the operating system, have been pretty mild stuff. And you can say, well, yes, there's the whole thing about potentially normalizing it and all those kind of things. It does the same people with smartphones? Right. And there's definitely like the smartphones tracking and doing way more nefarious stuff and all that. But a lot of times when I hear people, you know, make like a big stink, and to be clear, this is coming from me having been in like the IT side of things since Windows 9X. You know, when Windows ME was a new thing that everyone complained about, which to be fair, Windows ME was pretty bad. It had like one or two really nice things that were completely undone by the entire graphics package it put on that at the time computers were really not well suited to handle. But it did improve the network layer so that I would change my IP address and Windows wouldn't be like, yo, reboot your computer, you change your IP address. And you go, but why should I have to reboot to do that? Because that's what Windows 98 did. But every single version of Windows that came out, I heard people scream up a storm, being like, they made the start icon round. They made it round. Windows XP, it's round now. Why would they do that? Like, people forget, Windows XP was reviled when it came out. It wasn't until they had, like, their Service Pack 1 or 2 that people started being like, Windows XP is great. And then, you know, ME got a whole bunch of hate. That one never did get better because it showed up and they just went and flipped over to XP. Yeah, like, Windows ME was okay, but it was definitely, there was stuff. It was, I think, was it the introduction of the bubblegum UI? And so it was, a lot of people's hardware couldn't really handle the bubblegum UI. And they made it so you could turn off a lot of that later. And before you could turn it off, it was rough. Once you could turn it off, it was fine. Because again, the issue there was a lot of computers didn't have the onboard RAM to like spend on loading all those like random graphics into it. And so that was the whole thing. And that was like little things about like just making the buttons round on some of the edges and that kind of thing. And making it a bit more colorful. It still had good stuff under the hood. Like I said, the network layer got massively improved because it used to be you changed anything. It didn't matter. Subnet, IP address, anything like that. And it, like Windows 98 was like, you need to reboot. And a lot of us would be like, no, I don't. And then sometimes they'd be like, nope, not going to work till you reboot. There's no need for it, but that's just the way I am. I still need more commercial. Like, very genuinely, I'm surprised at the sheer volume of commercial zones I'm suddenly needing. Put room for a couple more commercial buildings. Does it need a 19-inch CRT that need a big table? Yep, I had a 21 at one point. No, wait, did I get a 27? I know I had a 21. I thought I got a hold of a 27 that like an office was getting rid of. I don't remember, but it was still like a 21-inch CRT. People don't understand. That thing was like, your whole desk is this monitor. This mammoth thing. It weighs like 45 pounds. You see your desk bow just a little bit because you just put this big 50 pounds of weight right in the middle of it. But the image was crisp. We're just waiting for this money to build our giant hydroelectric dam right across here. It's a terrible idea and I shouldn't do it, and I want to do it anyways. I just want to see that become one giant reservoir. Just because. It's a bad idea and I shouldn't do it, and we're going to spend a bunch of money on it and it'll be excellent. And we won't regret it immediately. It won't completely derail my entire water flow of my entire city and cause a chain reaction of problems that'll crash our economy. But yeah, no, that's, and like when Windows 7 came out, people hated that. People hated Windows 7 when it first came out, and now that became like super beloved over time. Windows Vista never reached that loved phase. Even though, for as much garbage as Windows Vista gets, which some of, like, don't get me wrong, it required a lot more hardware than the operating systems before it, but Microsoft kind of got screwed by a major dramatic shift in the way computers were going. So it was a whole thing that every evolution of computers was having more and more power, more and more CPU, more and more RAM, more and more hard drive than the version before it. And so we're like, okay, we've had these security problems forever. We want to finally button them up. We're going to go and do this operating system. We're going to button these things up. We're going to add all these nice features we've been asked for forever. We're going to put them in here. And we're going to finally start writing the ship where Windows is just this big target board for viruses. We're going to start working on that. And so they planned for computers to get roughly the amount better they had gotten. And that became the time frame that netbooks were all the rage. And netbooks were some of the most underpowered computers imaginable. So they're unhappy about noise pollution? There's like no one here. So as well as things that, had the computers continued on the trend they were on, Vista still would have been a bit of a resource hog, but it would also have been a resource hog that was reasonably in the area. Vista brought in a ton of improvements. You had within Vista, you had stuff to help tackle a bunch of malware. Vista was the first operating system where I started pushing back against developers saying, hey, stop putting your files everywhere in the computer. Here's the places you should put your files. Stop going to root and just dropping all your files right in the C drive. Stop writing to the system32 folder unless you really got business to be there. And they finally did that. And that's where the whole thing would pop up where it'd be like, hey, do you want to give this application administrator privileges? And yes, that prompt was extremely annoying. But that was because at the time, developers on Windows games and all that were doing all sorts of, not nefarious, but really badly thought through things. And that was Microsoft finally putting its foot down saying, hey, System32 belongs to the operating system. Get out of this folder. Like, your game does not need to be here. And so, like, for as much flack as it got, the fact that Windows nowadays, the malware we reach now is nowhere near as bad as it used to be, that kind of happened because of Vista. And, doing the bludgeoning the developers on the head saying, hey, stop it. Which they needed to do forever. And I, for one, as a developer, praise the fact that they did that, because I was getting tired of uninstalling stuff and there being crap left everywhere on my hard drive. And I would go on, it used to be a thing in the old Windows that you'd run your computer for a while and you'd reformat your hard drive because there was no cleaning up all the junk that it got dumped everywhere. And it's still not perfect, and people still could do stuff, but you had to at least go in and say, I want to give admin access so this thing can, write to my drive and all that. So things are way better than they are now. That said, it was always still a performance nightmare because they just misguessed the way the market was going. Which is on them. Then we had 8. People didn't like 8. 8 was, let's see, think of the follow. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, you reformatted Windows 90, I think you mean 98 SE. Yeah, I was gonna say 98 SE every 3 months is routine. Yeah, I don't miss those days. I don't miss nuking all of my settings every 3, 6, 8 months when my computer would start running like crap because I was installing and uninstalling games and they're leaving their files absolutely everywhere they had no business putting them. Or your computer would start crashing because something put itself in System32 and then you uninstalled it, yanked itself back out of System32. You had to get a cleaner. Well, back in the 98 days, the cleaners, they were better than nothing, but even they weren't that good. Because that was back in the heyday of Norton. Not Norton antivirus, but Norton the big package. The giant monolith. That, you'd have the thing that would be the mem cleaner, the registry cleaner that go through and find all the junk crap in your registry. And so it's those cleaners were okay. But you'd still end up with problems, and then, you'd have stuff that hijack each other's files, because you have 2 games try and write the same file in the same directory, and that would cause problems, and all sorts of garbage. And so that, again, that's the legacy of Vista there, is that that still happens a little bit, but nowadays, you get a bad reputation if you do that kind of stuff, that, people will call out your game for doing awful stuff and saving stuff it has no business putting there. And then Windows will flag every single time you open your game being like, hey, You need admin permissions. This game wants to write to System 32. You got admin permission. And as well as things that nowadays, if I open up a game just like normally and it asks for admin access, like installing it's one thing, sure. But if I'm just running a game and I need to run it as admin, that's a deal breaker for me now. I won't run the game because I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but you have no business needing admin access. Like, you're either writing to a system directory, which you shouldn't be in, or you're reconfiguring stuff on my operating system you shouldn't be messing with. Like, you're a game. You stay in your little box and leave my OS alone. And I cannot seem to... We're trying to get the traffic out of here, which is the reason why we're setting this up where we got a lot better throughput on all of this stuff where it shouldn't back up in traffic. But we're going to need to get people out of here, which has been the thing. I haven't started reducing our zoning back here, but I'm going to need to. That may be something I do here soon. Start dropping some of this high density zones down little by little to again kind of push the population out of this area into an area that can handle it better. Hey, Snoot, thank you so much for the absolutely ridiculous raid. How was your stream? And what were we playing and all that good stuff? Let me go ahead and get you a shout out. For those who don't know, Snoot, absolutely fantastic content creator on the platform. Plays a bunch of RimWorld and all that good stuff. Got raided by 3 people. Yep, I've had those days. But thank you so much. But yeah, plays a lot of RimWorld. We were playing RimWorld a little bit earlier today where we were doing a ghoul army, but how did your stream go? I'll try and catch your response here as everything goes flying by. But yeah, so welcome in, Raiders. I am Rual Storge. You play variety games here on Twitch. No, I'm sorry, you're gonna get hit with an ad break. It's just bad timing. I can't stop it. It's already got the ad starting soon. So my apologies to everyone about to get hit with an ad. I'm sorry. Twitch won't let me take it back. I'm pushing the snooze and it says no. It says no. Yeah, so this is where like Twitch needs to do a thing where in its ad cycle, it needs to be like, hey, did you know there's this thing called Twitch Turbo? It disables ads platform-wide. But yeah, no, it's definitely a thing that, like, while it's still going into that, so I'm Rual Storge, do play a variety of games here on Twitch. I'm most known for my exploits in Project Zomboid, where I used to hold a world record for the highest kill count run ever streamed, and there's the ad right there perfectly in time for that. Running off to get a snack, but your RimWorld colony is not doing so great. But it kind of makes it more fun. No problem. You go get your snack. Thank you so much for the raid and all that stuff.
Thank you, Randall, for 1812 for gifting a sub to Snoot_TV.
Thank you, Randall, for gifting a sub to Snoot TV. Snoot TV, now have yourself some nice advertisement previewing, whether you wanted it or not, as well as access to the emotes, whether you want it or not. So I really do appreciate that support. It means a whole heck of a lot. Yeah. Thank you for the parasocial, and boom. Thank you for parasocialing. I literally have a button just for Snoot there. Obviously don't actually parasocial people. But, I mean, in the bad way. For those, parasocialing in itself is not inherently good, bad, or otherwise. All parasocialing is in a social interaction, you are not on equal terms. So, for the example here, is I am talking to somewhere in the area about 300 of you, whereas you're talking towards me as an individual. There is an imbalance between there. That's fine. Where it becomes the problem is when you show up at my house, or you call my phone. That's where things start getting not so good. That's a problem. Like where it starts to get a little bit on the stalkery side of things. That's when parasocial becomes the real big issue. So if you're wondering why we're just kind of sitting here watching the city grow, we're getting ready to build a hydroelectric dam to cut across this whole area here. Because the water flow goes from there out, like towards my city, and then down this way, and then we also have this flows this way. So if I build a hydroelectric dam out here, what should happen, assuming the physics work right, is this whole area should eventually fill up as a giant reservoir. I have checked, this is the low area out here. I have checked that if I go from this spot here, that the top is somewhere around here is about where that'd be level. So I'm going to build down here and we should be good. And that's with some margin of error we've got ourselves situated. The problem is it costs about $7 million and like $7.5 million to make a hydroelectric dam across that whole area. So we just want to kind of make that happen because I just want to see it happen. It's going to really screw up my water movement. My biggest fear is that with the water flow change that this will start to backflow as this drains out, and that this won't, like, we're depending on our sewage being drawn away, and I'm worried about not having enough movement in this area. What's the red stuff? That is some nice, clean sewer water being dumped into the river, as you do. So that's industrial waste, sewer water, all of that stuff being dumped in. Yeah, so sorry everyone who popped in and got hit with an ad immediately. I didn't notice that after the raid, the ad was already queued up, and I wasn't allowed to snooze it. But I'm all that's we have a total of 10,000 tourist visits in a single city we just got an achievement for. What are our tourist oh, we have like a celebrity mansion and all that stuff. That's fine. But yeah, so right now the big projects we got going on is I want to build a hydroelectric dam over here. There's no valid reason for me to be doing that other than I want to. Strategically, it's a bad idea. Is it going to fix any of my problems? No. Is it going to create problems? Yes. Do I want to do it anyways? Absolutely. But the things I am working on is this area here. I had my zoning misunderstood when I set it up. I forgot that medium density zoning in this game is basically, they're not skyscrapers, but they are like 10-story buildings and all that. These roads were not adequately made to handle that. And then we've got another area over here that, again, these roads weren't adequately made that. That feeling when your house is a tourist attraction. So we've got an area over here that we've started greenfield building of it, where this was grown kind of organically as we were going along. This has been designed from the beginning to have far better throughput. So if you look at the way these go, we have almost no crosswalks because we have like a sky walkway going absolutely everywhere. You have a lunch bowl, you're an adult. Hey, my wife eats Uncrustables. It's fine. You're an adult and you can define that however you wish. But you also notice I have these framing of trees around here. So this is one of the things I would normally be doing while we're, you never had an Uncrustable? It's basically a sandwich with no crust. But if you go down like our main road here before we get to this area, all these trees you see along this highway, these are not things that get placed automatically. That stuff I've placed manually along here. It looks really, really, really good when it comes to the fall because you have this nice like orangish yellow framing for the main road. And you have like these offshoots you can see over here from where we go to our subdivisions and all that. That's one of those things I'll do when you're like, oh, I'm waiting on money. You could just plunk them down because they're like 10 bucks a tree, so it takes forever for that to add up to any meaningful amount. Meanwhile, we are in one of those moments right now. It's nice to treat yourself once in a while? Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things that I'll just do this as a way of, one, killing time while you're waiting for money to come in, and it also makes your city look really nice. Because one of the problems you run into, and this is the same with this Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, the Jurassic Park Zoo games and all that, is if you just go where you put down your buildings and you leave it, a lot of the time the city starts to look really plastic because all of the ground is just kind of a uniform texture. And so it's one of those things that adding stuff like trees and bushes and all that kind of stuff really helps break that up. And, you know, it's kind of like a distraction to the eyes, as it were. We'll just leave that way. So I try to do that. Like, that's the trick to making your parks look really amazing in Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster is whatever the buildings look like to begin with, do what you can to add stuff on to make them look nice. Even if it's not something that makes sense. Like, I've used stuff like the telephone poles, like windowsills, or whatever I had to just make things look different. So you have a random question. The first one, you can't remember the city building game that you used to play a few years. Do you know what it might be? You had multiple mini cities in one big city, and your industry could be developed to build robotics computer chips similar. The second question is similar. Can you help me remember another similar multi-cities, one big city doesn't have industry? Sorry if you don't think of that. I know the multiplayer SimCity had that. where you had like several cities contributing to one set of cities. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but I don't know offhand like what game you might be referring to, unfortunately. There are a lot of city builders out there. Let's see, Sargentino's balance breaks are fancy adult Lunchables. That's, it's apparently a trend happening with, like, a little bit Gen X, more so millennial and younger, about just going out and, like, being, like, what am I getting for dinner? Not for dinner, it's like, what am I getting for lunch? And just getting a charcuterie.
What's the worst that could happen?
I will get that as soon as I get these trees over towards this crossroad. And the reason it seems like the trees are getting farther away is we're at a weird angle, not actually above it. All right. Now I got you with that, California, but unfortunately I just don't know what game you're talking about. I know the old City Skylines, you had the industrial DLC. You could do all sorts of stuff and like make computer chips and all that. But that wasn't a multiple cities game. Like there was the vague, if you attached a road to the edge of map, it would go out to like the larger world. But for intents and purposes, it was just this is an output input. There wasn't really, oh, I have affected the larger market or whatever. Which is always one of the things I wanted to see in these kind of games, was the idea that, like, I would like to see with these games it is, like, globally multiplayer kind of thing, that as different cities had different needs and all that, it would very gradually start to shift demand for goods, to encourage like cities to, you know, have different production, because otherwise what happens, you have your game and goes, oh, this good is the meta, produce this good or just have worse money. But having a thing where like as people, you know, have different things they make, it would effectively shift what the market is. So if everyone was producing the same good and not other stuff, you would destroy the market for that good. Oh, didn't they add decorations we could get to the roundabouts? There's something about that I thought I saw. They did. Oh yeah, that's what we want. Where are all of my roundabouts? Are those the medium roundabouts, really? It makes sense for those to be concrete in the middle, because those are raised. It's unlikely you'd have dirt up there. Because that was one of the things that, like, literally this update came out yesterday, was one of the complaints was you'd want to do stuff with these roundabouts and all that, so they were just more than like a little grassy hill or whatever, and you couldn't. It just wasn't a thing. But they did add it now where you can go and add trees and stuff to it. Because that's what I wanted to do before, is you'd see that tree in the, like, the green spot in the middle. It's like, let me put trees here. It's like, no, it's a roundabout. You can't do that. So I'm very happy they did that. It makes it nicer. Like, sure, it's one tree in the middle, but that tree will grow. And it'll be like these other trees where it kind of covers up that intersection a little bit, which will make it a lot nicer to look at. Alright, so that's continuing to grow, and weirdly we're just not getting, like, there's offices zoned here, and they're just not getting built for some reason. How's our education system doing? We have officially, finally got to the point that our elementary schools actually can't handle capacity. Any trees are good trees. Oh yeah, that's, if people remember, say, Skylines 1, you'd look at, like, 90% of the map. I actually don't have anywhere you can see, but 90% of the map would look like this area here, where there's like no trees and then like a handful of trees and then no trees for a long time. And this is what I would aim to have my maps look like now. Or like in say Skylines 1 is I would try and put down this many trees. But the old say Skylines had an asset limit that wouldn't let you build over a certain number. Hey Mark, how's it going? How are you doing on taxes after the update? I am doing great. I am pulling in $13.5 million in taxes. That is not great. I don't like this. This is not my friend. Taxes are yay. This is no. Let's see. How do you actually use a Prime sub? You have your account hooked up to this Twitch account, but you're not trying to use Prime. So it's usually you go to where you would go to sub for the channel, and just where you choose like do the tier 1 sub. There's usually like a little checkbox that says Prime game, like Prime sub or whatever, and you tick that checkbox. They've changed the UI on me a few times, so I might have the exact layout of it wrong. But the big thing is you'd go to where you would sub, and you'd choose like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, like that kind of nonsense. Well, you'd choose tier 1 or to click the link to get to the bigger ones. And I believe they have a tick box there. That said, like, you know. Yeah, the good news is the tornado didn't hit anything. It kind of came up the road as like, ah, and then it went away. Well, elevate your sub, I thought, was to kick it up to a tier 2 or 3. Whereas we're looking at, they're asking how to use a Prime sub. Oh, that was destroyed by weather? Okay, sure. They moved it? Gotcha. That is one of my complaints, is making it easier for us to... Like, it shouldn't require someone to be like, hey, how do I upgrade my sub? Hey, how do I use my Prime sub? That shouldn't be a thing that someone should have to ask. If they do, you have a UI problem. Like, it should be very clear that you look at it and go, ah, I see. I want to sub, here's my Prime sub. Like, it should be very straightforward and easy to find and navigate. Alright, so that parking garage is doing fine. Our schools are doing fine. Let's see, it says, click on subscribe. There's a box to tick near the bottom of the page. Yeah, that's what I thought it was something like that, to do your Prime sub. Is that you go to where you sub, and then it's like way by the bottom. There's a little tick box that says like use Prime sub or whatever. And as a reminder, Prime subs do not auto-renew. You have to manually go through and renew your Prime sub. You think they didn't want you to use your Prime sub? They get more money if you do a regular one? Correct. But it is those things. You didn't realize you had 3 tabs of Rual open, 2 from raids? Yeah, it's been like, honestly, I've been getting a lot of raids lately, which I super appreciate. Alright, we're almost to the point where we get to spend our obnoxious amount of money to build a hydroelectric dam I don't need. And also, you might look at this and go, why aren't you doing anything with that?
Thank you, Chester LaRue, for subscribing
It's
for
zoned.
14 months. Cheers. Thanks for the streams.
Thank you, Chessie LaRue, for the Prime Gaming sub. That's 14 months you've been subbed to channel. So that is 1 year and 2 months now. So I really do appreciate the continued support, and I hope you enjoy your advertisement-free viewing as well as access to the emotes. So thank you again for all that support. Really do appreciate it. Did we actually build those? Nah, because that's lower. Something's been going on in my entire city. There is like, just these are the only offices that have successfully built. I don't know why. And then these are like special buildings. And that's with having the Tech University that boosts them, and the Hydron Collider, which also boosts them. And if we look at our taxes for the offices is pretty low. I'm actually going to reduce it by even more. So I don't really know what's going on here, that we're just really struggling to get the offices to move into town. Because our education in the city is ridiculously high. Well, I shouldn't say ridiculous. It's pretty good. What is the unemployment like? The unemployment's pretty good. I'm sitting at about 1% unemployment. And I am trying to bring more people into town They're just taking their sweet time, and that's with the happiness being very high. Keeping in mind, if we look at our happiness, you can't see it because I'm covering it up, but that high taxes, that's -9 because we be taxing. Oh, we be taxing. Yeah. Like, the commercial's my primary income from taxes now. It used to be residential, but we started cutting back our residential tax, because I was charging, I think it was 22% residential tax. Oh, Lord, he taxing. Oh, yeah. The tax. Hey, gotta get that money. I am providing a ridiculous amount of services. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. I'm providing a ridiculous amount of services. Like, every other city block, like, this whole side of town is just schools. And, like, we got taxes all around here. Like, when you really look at it, if this is one city block, you know, obviously I've got them concentrated. We have schools like every other city block. Pretty city? Oh yeah, no, I was showing this off earlier. Oh yeah, it's gonna start turning orange. The main road for Old Town. Just all the trees framing the road. And you can't really see it from here as well. But we've got, like, this is another area. We've got the lanes going in there. If we scooch over to the neighborhoods too, it goes down this way too. Can you private sub for the mobile app? I believe so. I haven't done it myself. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. So, like, that's one of those things. When it comes to the mobile app, I haven't done nearly as much with the mobile app that we run into stuff. Why do we keep getting abandoned houses? Because they're complaining about noise pollution on this road. But there really shouldn't be much noise pollution here. Yeah, low noise pollution. And they're like, we're unhappy. Everything is marking happiness. I mean, our death rate's going up, but that's probably just the age balance. If we look at our age balance right now, we actually have a pretty high amount of seniors and actually a really high amount of children, more than I'm used to seeing. So we're just kind of in a weird state where we have a lot of our citizens are either children too young to work jobs and all that, or seniors who are seniors who are effectively retired and not doing the best. You're not getting the Boxer Prime when you go to subscribe? Yeah, I wish I could help you. Unfortunately, I just don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, so we're getting a bunch of abandoned buildings because, like, our population is crashing. And it's not people moving out. We got lots of people moving in. We're having a pretty high death rate. And we're not getting contaminated water, so that's not the issue. And I'm not seeing anything here that's like, oh god, everything's terrible. Living near... Oh, have we finally reached the point where this industry is crossed over to hurting our local populace? Because that actually is a very valid concern. Okay, so we don't have any water pollution along the residential. The noise pollution, as you can see, the roads are a problem. That's just the way it is. There's not a whole lot I can do to help that. Ground pollution, luckily, it does go right up to the edge of the properties, but it isn't actually going into the residential. And then the air pollution is all being drawn away. The only place we have a problem is right here on these handful of houses, because we are getting air pollution from the sewage outputs. But yeah, so noise pollution is basically everywhere. Anywhere you have lots of anything, you've got noise pollution. So, like, you look at almost the whole city is starting to get some noise pollution until you get to the more rural areas. Alright. And eventually I could frame these highways and all that, but right now I don't have enough of that. And I don't want to frame this, because this is supposed to be office space. Which is the reason I'm finding it so weird that I just can't see. Because, like, the whole city, it says office suitability. The whole city is green. That's what I don't understand. Let's do the extreme test. Because I'm literally going to pay them to open offices. We are reverse taxing. I am literally subsidizing office space. Hey, look. We're actually seeing offices now. Hey, you know what? Hate to be the one to do this, but we've taken back the subsidy. Okay, so that tells me that if I reduce the tax rate, we can make that work. That's so weird. That's such a low tax rate was holding back the building of offices. That said, they're building them now, so whatever. Your water treatment plant with enough capacity, you can turn off the sewage outlet pipe. Yeah, I need to build those. That's just another thing on my list. I also want to build them way farther down the way. Like, I can build them down here, and then it's just going to be all the way away from my city. Yeah, so the hearses are doing their best to keep up. You're doing your best to keep up. And I'm assuming traffic is bad again. Yup. It's nothing but hearses. Oh, this feels terrible. It's a procession of hearses and ambulances, the entire area. There's like the occasional yellow cab and just hearses and yellow, or just hearses and ambulances, and that's it. And that's just because people basically getting old. That is okay. We got one muscle car in there and a taxi. We got a sedan. We got a couple cars in there, but it's almost nothing but hearses and all that. And as you can tell, it is a busy part of town for the walkways. This is the main avenue we have for foot traffic, because all of these people going to the subway. Oh my god, the subway system is completely overrun. That we have... Oh, wait, never mind. It was at 1,700 people waiting, and it dropped down again. And we can't really add more vehicles to it. We've already maxed it out. Both lines are maxed out in the number of vehicles they can support. But that's, again, why we're trying to get Old Town support. So it's definitely not a health problem, because we don't have the air pollution and all that over here. I think literally we're just... So, like, City Skylines has always had a phenomenon known as death waves. And it used to be caused by the fact that when you had a bunch of people move in all at the same time, they would all be in the same age range, and so they would all get old and die at the same time. So you'd end up in the cycle of, like, everyone to move in and have kids. So you'd have, like, your entire need for schools would explode, and then it'd all become adults at the same time, and it'd all become elderly at the same time, and it'd all die at the same time, and then the cycle would repeat. And so your entire economy would whiplash back and forth. And they've done stuff to, like, fuzzy it a little bit, to make it nowhere near susceptible to that. But it still is a thing. Oh, yeah, sorry, Randall Thor, it's not going to let you send the link. If you can DM them the link, but the chat won't work with it. Yeah, so you have a bunch of buildings collapsing from being abandoned and all that. So we're just going to ride out this death wave, unfortunately. We're almost to the point, so we're still making a bunch of money. We're still making a bunch of money, so we're going to ride the death wave. And what my next move is going to be is I'm going to build a crematorium over here with the intent of having this crematorium deal with this area and that area to keep all of this down here being serviced by the graveyard and all that there. Yeah. Just copy paste the intent? Oh yeah, no, you paste the info. Like, I got you. Nah, you're good, Randall Thor. I was basically saying you're helping someone, and there was clearly a link in there, or something that Twitch thought was a link. It could be like, you know, settings / whatever, and then Twitch's like, that's a link. Or, you know, something that had a dot in it or whatever. So for everyone else, whatever came out mobile device via the next thing Twitch thought was a link. So it's not like you got in trouble or anything, it's just we didn't see what that was. Alright, come on. Whoa, we have incredible demand for office space. Let's do this. Hey, this big office space now. No little office space, big office space. Man, I really appreciate you helping. Well, we don't seem to need this residential here. So we can go ahead and let's make... So let's see. That's 6 there. And 6 there. So add more office space over here. Basically gonna start mixing in office area down here until they stop demanding office space. Yeah, so apparently I just really had to take down the taxes. That for whatever reason the offices really require a low tax rate to be able to function, which is interesting. Because like the idea that the offices would need less than half as much taxes to residential to even consider as something. And on top of that, like, you know, almost like 30% less than commercial or industry. Because that's interesting, because I think the tax rate when you start the game starts you at 12%, which means the starting tax rate is too high. Ah, we're almost there. And that should have increased our revenue. I mean, you don't really notice it because the sheer amount of stuff we got going on. I'm definitely not taking loan. Offices need to hire staff who have to pay higher residential taxes. Right. But it's just one of those things that's surprising how different the taxes are. The more surprising thing is that the starting tax rate that the game starts you set to was too high for it to build offices. That you actually have to take what they start you at and turn it down for offices to be viable. You're hearing that Skyline devs have a beef? Are you saying the Skyline's dev just don't like tax rates on their offices? Oh man, like... we just need more office space. Well, honestly, with a bunch of these buildings getting knocked down, I don't really want to build up this area more than it already is. But the demand for offices is high, and I have nowhere else to put them, and I don't want to deal with much more. Okay, so here we go with the hydroelectric. So we want to go up just a little ways from this area. And we're cutting across to... I thought I was able to do this cheaper before. I probably just didn't go as high up the ridge. Okay, so that would be absolutely absurd amount of power production. Honestly, that's going to make a lot more power than I was anticipating. I do wish it would tell me how much power it expect me to produce at the other mounts. All right. And with that, we're all hooked up. So what we'll need to do is, first of all, get a road down out of here. All right. Oh, I see what's happening there. I didn't make that turn tight enough. So we got this winding gravel road that goes all the way up to the dam. Yes, we got this winding gravel road that goes all the way up to our hydroelectric dam. And then from here, we have it hook up to our grid out there. And so this is producing nothing yet. But someday, our completely unreasonable monolith of a dam here is going to be a lucrative source of electricity and money. Now you'll notice the water level is quickly going down here because there's literally no water coming out of here now. So this is my main water intake here. So this is going to effectively backwash into that till it hits the dam and fills it up, and then this should go effectively stagnant on so far as water movement, and then this will just flow around this way. The big concern is when that starts to backfill, if we lose the water flow here because of how much of this water is diverting over, because, you know, half the flow will go this way, half of that will go that way, what happens? Now you'll notice when you zoom out, it gets all sorts of weird issues with a dam that big. But, slowly but surely, you're noticing this forest is getting flooded. Because we made our giant dam. The interesting thing is it said this thing's going to produce 1,700 kilowatts of power. Yeah, so right now, sorry, megawatts of power. So right now it's producing next to nothing. Versus we've got our geothermal plant up here, and it produces 1,156 megawatts. This dam is going to be the equivalent of like 17 of those. What is your operating cost? I should actually be looking at that. So your operating cost is actually not as much as I thought it was going to be. That looks like a lot, but it's really not that bad. This is going to be an incredibly lucrative dam. That dam is ultimately the service trade amount. I could see that ballooning over $3 million. That literally we might be able to cut back on almost all of our taxes in our city and just let that thing continue to grow. Oh man, we built all these offices here, and it's still like, no, we need more offices. Okay. Well, I guess you're gonna make an office park up here. I can do that. Alright, so let's go... So the problem I have is the way I've been doing this to deal with our traffic flow is this is an intake, And that's an outtake. So this area, that's just the flow. They take the major highway in here, they go in, they go out. And then this cuts across between the neighborhoods so they don't have to, flood the major intake and outtakes or, go the whole way around. But the issue I have is this is still the highway separated out here, so I can't do an intake-outtake here and have it work well. So right now I'm just going to have this as the one-way in, one-way out, and then ultimately later I'll probably have another main road that goes this way, and then we can fix that. It should be fine, because it shouldn't be super dense traffic going through here. Oh, wait, straight line. I want that to go... That should be okay. Alright, so we've got that. And we'll add a curb here. And this area doesn't have nearly as much room for people to move around as the other one. So we're going to run into a couple little problems here with all this. We will want to make the pedestrian walkways we've been extending go into this area. Because that'll help a lot. Anyone I can keep off of the roads will be to my benefit. Okay, so 6 by 6 is the largest we can go with this. So we can go here. So that'll cut across to this area. And one thing we're going to want to do is going to our advanced road settings. We want to get rid of this crosswalk and these crosswalks for now. I'll end up making a road or a walkway that goes over to this side. Well, actually, we've already got it. We can have it serve this side. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to stream. For the moment, I am going to need those up-down crosswalks. We can deal with that when we get there. But... welcome to the office park. This area is nothing but offices right now. That's actually not the way you want to zone stuff. You do want to try and mix your stuff so people don't have to go as far. But I'm hoping the fact that we disallow a lot of the crosswalks around here, we only have a couple places with them, that a lot of the people will just walk along this, get to their office area, and they'll be good. We'll probably want to add a subway up here as well. So have, like, I've already got a subway that goes down here to a main trunk that leads the rest of the city. Probably, honestly, have, like, a subway system that makes a U and just goes through this way. We could deal with that when we get there. Or, like, zigzags or whatever we gotta do. Basically, just get people using a subway to get out here. Honestly, as well, go ahead and hit this spot as well. And that one. So that should be able to get thing. What are your thoughts on Civ 7 coming out next year? I don't really have strong thoughts. I very much enjoyed the Civ series in the past, but I also haven't really played a Civ game in a very long time. Like, they're excellent, but they just take forever, and since I've started streaming those types of games is very difficult. The 4X strategy games. Unless that's, like, what your channel does, it's really, really hard. Yeah, crime in the dam? Hey, look. We don't talk to the mob about what happens at the dam. They pay good taxes. We don't want to bother them. Okay, so we still have an outflow of water. So that's fine for right now. But as you can see, this is drying up. And very quickly, this is flooding very rapidly. All of this forest area here was above water before. So they're all just getting absolutely buried in water. It is interesting to me that this claims it's producing power, which I find fascinating because the way dams usually work is if you see these gates at the top here, usually you have intakes. Yeah, you'd have like your intakes up here. The water goes through, and all a dam is really doing, and it's a lot of equipment to do it, is the water goes here, it falls down, turning a whole bunch of turbines using gravity, and then, you get rid of it. And then you have the floodgates here at the top where if your reservoir is overflowing and you just need to get the water out, it just lets it dump the water out more rapidly. So it doesn't go through all the systems. I think it's that's a spillover, I think that is. I'm not an expert in this. But yeah, but the whole idea is it goes in here, you've got your turbines and all that inside the dam, that it's just the force of the water trying to go down to the lower altitude, like trying to get down here, just turns your turbines, and you use that to make electricity. The funny thing is, other than like photoelectric solar panels, almost all your types of power generation boil down to turning a turbine. Steam, you have pressure, it builds up, it pushes out, you use that to turn a turbine. All a nuclear power plant really is at the end of the day, it is a way to make water boil and then push the steam out to turn a turbine. Coal, you do the same thing. You're making water boil, you're pushing it out, turn a turbine. Natural gas, you get the idea. The difference is hydroelectric is instead of making the water boil, you're using gravity to pull the water down, like using gravity that pulls the water down to turn a turbine as opposed to steam pushing past it to turn it. Wind power is similar, it's just not using like the boiling of water, it's air going by. Well, controlling water is easier than controlling heat or gravity. Yeah. Yep. And then the idea with geothermal is you're using a similar thing where you're causing it underground to be like forced up and out. There's a lot more to geothermal than the other systems. Okay. Let's see, how much concrete you reckon that dam would take? This here, this would be a contender for Hoover. Like, Hoover is an absurdly large dam, but we're talking, this is, how high is this dam? Can we figure that out easy? I'm trying to think of like the size of Hoover and everything. So this here is a 1.1 mile long dam. And then height-wise, from top to bottom, it is about a 45-degree incline from the center. So someone would have to do some trig here of going, what is, if you do like your whole a squared or a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that kind of thing, you'd have to figure out, so this angle is 976 to get up here. This would be 819. Oh no, that'd be if it's sorry, that's Pythagorean theorem. You'd have to have a right angle triangle. We can't say that it is. There's got to be a way I can measure that, right? Can I just keep pushing up till we get there? No. What'd be the... So it's a 45-degree incline, just shy of. Note that every single power generator that uses a turbine requires power to work. Yep. Yeah, it's close enough. Yeah, so 45-degree from the center. Someone would have to do the math that we have that, like, to figure out what that is. And that would still not be, because this is the center here, so it actually... Okay, from the center, it's only about a 32%. So it'll be just about 1,200 yards. Yeah, so this would be flat. That'd be 90 degrees down. And then this would be, whatever the internal ones would go. Let's see, would the outflow of the dam change your river location? Yes. I am going to probably need to curve this down. We should probably do that now, in fact. So we should shift the elevation. I forgot the default percent it's set to is absurd. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. It's like, why does that not make sense? Because I'm going the wrong way. That's why it's not making sense. So we're going to go and make that more uniform. Not that it matters, it'll be underwater, but that was autosave making the mouse stick for a moment. Okay. There. So that should be better. The big thing is that it doesn't spill out and like go into my oil field and all that. And as you can see, it continues to flood. The entire forest is almost gone. Yeah, it's like, it's really easy to underestimate how much higher elevation this area is than this was. But yeah, we're gonna be backfilling all the way up to like this area up here. It's gonna be completely flooded in there. But that's what a reservoir is. You just basically artificially make a lake by blocking off part of it and then having your output. Alright, we got a couple... Oh my god, you need more office space? The company does not have enough employees. Oh my god, we're short 13,000 employees. I mean, I've got the housing zoned. Okay, let's see if I lower the taxes on the residential, if we can get some more people moving in here. So we can lower it 3%. Because we're trying to go and expand this. Because suddenly we're able to get a ridiculous amount of offices going. And we just need more people moving into town. We still have this death wave going on, which is not helping us. So that's the next thing I want to do, is let's get the, we should have enough money for it. Get the crematorium. And we're definitely going to put that directly next door to the hospital. And not think too much of it. So before we go too far, this only serves these districts. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to avoid having them take these main trunks and build up traffic here. We've got all this stuff down here already helping out with that. By having this one serve just this area, I should be able to get this under control better. The next thing I need to do is I am going to need to get the recycling center going up here. So I could see having this cross over the river over here, and then building our recycling center up over here, and have that for just this area. Like, basically have it for just all of this up here. Meanwhile, I probably should add more districts. Oh, hey, you need to be expanded out here. This is basically like the unaffiliated district. Yep, so that's this whole, like, side of the road district. And I'll probably need to go over to this side as well. And it's the same kind of thing. All of these ones that aren't really part of stuff, so you can probably shift over now. Because what I'm trying to do is we're going to make it so, like, stuff like trash and all that, that I can have one system set up with one side of the road considered, and the other with the other. But to do that, I need every one of my businesses and everything to be in one of those zones. It doesn't matter which zone, they just have to be in them. We're making a bunch of districts here. Okay, and we got this farm over here. Oh, I see. There's a spot. That's fine. Okay. Just popped up for breakfast. How's the dam looking? It's looking good. Water is slowly building up on that side. This is all going dry. Pretty soon we'll see the water stop flowing out of here entirely, as it does run dry. We're just dealing with a problem where now I want to start allocating some of these resources to be on one side of the road or the other. So boom. So you handle this side of the road, that's your responsibility. And we can go to this other hospital, and you handle this side of the road. That's your responsibility. Okay, and next up we go to you. Same deal. Well, I can just do this. That's helpful. Yes, go ahead and do this. So that's you. And we can grab the medical clinic. The medical clinic I'll let float. Select you. Same deal. Alright. Oh, and on top of that we can grab... Where is... That's fine. Alright, so next one we need to do is we do want to get a recycling center or something going up on this side. That way... One moment. That way when it comes to considerations of... I'm just trying to deal with... There you go. Consideration of the trash, I'll have this side of the river will be one set, and this will be the other. So I'm trying to get it so services, you have this side of the river is one set of services, that's the other, just for the sake of making it more manageable, because it also means we won't have to clog up our highways and our inlets and outlets, and it should alleviate some of the traffic going on. Hey, Tim the Sorcerer, thank you so much for the raid. I hope you had yourself a good stream. I'm guessing you're playing some RimWorld? But how was your stream, and how did it go, and all that good stuff? Let me go ahead and get you a shout-out real fast, and really fast. I'm going to go ahead and snooze so you don't get hit with the ads. We already had that happen once today. So we've got shout-out for Tim the Sorcerer. It's going good. So I'm guessing you're playing some RimWorld. Cool. Brutal RimWorld Obsession. Dude, called it early. Randy was truly random. You doing well? Yeah. I'm doing pretty well. I started my stream out with RimWorld as well. I was doing my my ghoul run Did lose a ghoul to getting brained by just like a regular bow when the ghoul is behind cover and everything, which is pretty underwhelming. But mostly it was a good day. But it was just one of those ones where you're kind of staring though, going, really, really? Did you win the pollution run? No, I stumbled at the finish line. We were doing the anomaly endgame event, activated all the pillars, but it's down to 3 up colonists, and I could not get back to the monolith standing. So the monolith was fully awakened, and I just couldn't get to push the button. That said, I already have two anomaly victories under my belt, but it was still just one of those things like, come on, man, I was right there. I could have probably gotten it. We had one person who went down and crawled back to a bed and then got up. If I had thought to put the bed in front of the monolith, I could have had them crawl to the monolith, get back up, and then grab it real fast. But, you know, hindsight 2020 and all that. Alright. So, we are slowly filling in the jobs here, but we've got a long way to go. Is Timberborn your playlist? I have played Timberborn. More than likely when Timberborn comes out with its next big update, I'll probably play it again. Well darn, it happens. Yep. It is. It is a damn shame. I mean, it's not... Hang on, we can change this. Well, we'll turn it the other way. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So the next move here is going to be... I want to get another recycling center around here somewhere. Because we have dammed off the rivers. And the plan is to make all of that into one giant reservoir. Which is going to produce it's like 1,700 megawatts. So my geothermal plant here produces 147 with the upgrades. I'm looking forward to seeing how much money this thing produces for us. Because it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. So with that said, actually, do we want to go for the full industrial waste plant? Let's go for the full industrial waste plant. How big are you? Oh. You're really not that big. I was really expecting... I mean, the recycling center... Well, I guess actually the recycling center's not that much bigger than you. Well, I mean, heck, if that's the size of that... What we could do here is I don't even need to cross the road for that. I am trying to keep it far away from everything because I suspect it's going to make people unhappy. That'll be fine. So we'll put it down here. So the intent is to basically put it at the foot of the dam. And that should be fine. Vehicles in use? None, because they're fully handled. Yep, so we're just basically struggling getting more workers here. And now that we don't have them trying to cross over and go all the way over here, this seems to be handling it better. It also... No, our population is still plummeting, and it's because our age balance is really bad right now. That we almost have as many senior... Well, we're very quickly moving in the direction of having as many senior citizens as adults, which is not what you want. You really don't want that. You need enough people able to take care of your aging population. So we're basically having this like drug out death wave that we're just trying to muscle over. Like financially we're doing fine, but our population is crashing hard. like, really our population is crashing in a big way. We're 7,000 jobs. We have 7,000 vacant jobs. Almost 1 out of 4 jobs, about 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 5 jobs is unfilled. Because everyone's aging out. And I think it's going to keep on crashing like that. Until basically our elderly people die. Just because there's so many of them. We'll also probably realistically have a bump up in our immigration people coming in. Yeah, so we are seeing more people moving into town to offset the people passing away from old age, which will help. But in the interim, we're kind of just riding out this death wave. So this is way better than it used to be. It used to be suddenly everyone dies at the same time, your whole economy collapses. So it does seem like it slower ramps up and back out of the death waves, which I think is more realistic and more reasonable. So instead of your economy just imploding, it just puts a mild strain on your economy for a longer period of time. Alright, so we're just basically waiting for that to go. In the meantime, we can start messing with more of this. And make it all nice. But yeah, so for those, I should have probably introduced myself. So I'm Rual Storge, do play a variety of games here on Twitch. At the moment, we're playing some City Skylines 2. We were playing RimWorld at the beginning of the stream. Our colony's still alive and all that. But I do usually split my streams up between multiple games since I do stream for 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I do that to keep the content fresh for me and the viewers, because I am a variety streamer. I'm the kind of person who I just cannot play one game forever and ever and ever and be happy. I enjoy RimWorld, and I play it like almost as a third of my content. But, you know, you gotta have your breaks. Thank you, Baghdad. I appreciate it. But yeah, so we do play a whole range of games. I'm most famous for my, I used to have a world record in Project Zomboid for the most zombies killed in a single run. For context, that number is 135,101 zombies killed. Sorry, 121 zombies killed in one character. And that was like all of your normal apocalypse settings, but worse. Now, it wasn't the sweatiest, hardest the game could possibly get, but you know, the point is, I didn't like turn off infection or anything like that, or like not even off. I didn't change any of the infection settings. Just, it's basically apocalypse, but I would like more zombies, please, yes, and thank you. Is pretty much what the settings were. Oh, and there's also 0 to hero, which means you started with no strength or fitness or anything like that. But that said, I am a variety streamer. I do play a variety of games, including RimWorld, including City Skylines. I play like City Builders, Settlement Builders, Simulation, Tycoons. The occasional, like on the rare occasion, like a roguelite. A bunch of different indie games. Yeah, so if you're wondering why I'm doing this and what purpose it serves, it doesn't serve one other than it's a good way to kill time while you're waiting for money to roll in, because this costs like next to nothing. And it makes your city pretty. And anyone who's played any game, everyone knows, like, when you play things like Dark Souls, it's Fashion Souls. When you play stuff like Warframe, it's Fashion Frame. There's no point on winning if you can't look good doing it. So sometimes, you just gotta do a little bit to make your city look pretty. This inside intersection is not letting me wedge these trees in very well. Have you ever played Banished? Yes, I have every achievement in Banished. I have 100% in Banished. And if you're wondering why I'm taking the time to do this, with the little trees it doesn't look that good, but if we go to our old town area, now that we're actually in autumn, like this, it's like a little bit harder now. Let's go to the other side. I was gonna say, it's a little bit harder now that we have the big buildings in the middle. But yeah, so as you can see, we have this like cool little like lined out road here with all our trees down it. like the neighborhoods have. You can see the trees along the edges of the neighborhoods, all that stuff. It really does give your town a very nice aesthetic, versus having this ground starts to look really plastic if you don't have stuff breaking it up. And I still don't know why they won't build a house here. It's zoned correctly. If I just put something else there, will it build? Are they just unhappy with that particular zoning? Because for some reason they won't build here, and I don't know why. Did you play Manor Lords yet? Yes, I have. Manor Lords to me it's like this game has a really good start. I want to wait until it's more done. Oh, I just realized I've been it's fine. I've been zoning it so it's like all of this has been using the EU aesthetic that the game has, the tile set, whatever you want to call it, asset pack. And then this is going to be NA, North American. So that way, like, there are very distinct districts to it. Like, this is the one area, this is the other area. There's only the two assets. Otherwise, like, if we had, like, you know, an Asian pack of some kind, I could see doing that over here, like expanding a bunch. You get the idea. Do a little bit to, like, make the city interesting and unique. Oh, that population just keeps crashing. And yet our school system is still getting hammered on the younger end, because on the plus side, you know, while we're having our number of seniors are dropping, if you watch, the number of children are slowly climbing. And that's what's happening, is basically the seniors are dying off and people are having more children to offset the reduced population there. And that's leading almost a third of, like, well, technically if you count the teens in there, over a third of my population is just children. So, like, our age distribution in the city is really in a bad place. And that'll fix itself, but it takes a while. But that's the reason we're getting all these abandoned houses and all that kind of stuff, and why our health services are really struggling and our schools are getting slammed, is it's just going through that roller coaster of the age issue. And they're still like, we want more office space, but the issue is I just can't provide the workers. Oh, interestingly enough, they're not complaining about workers anymore. They got a couple down here that are complaining about workers. So they are starting to get their worker situation settled on that one. Oh, unclick that. I mean, we're still short by about 9,000 employees out of a city that has room for 40,000 employees. So again, it's almost 1 in 4. I did increase the taxes a little bit on the offices to dissuade them from having quite as much demand, but there's not much I could do about that. We're just, yeah, we got a bunch of our commercial zones are now complaining that there's not enough customers. How is our cemetery doing? It's still got plenty of capacity. Yeah, so we're trying to get the industrial waste processing. That'll be a huge boon for us. But it's 6 million. So we're just killing time till we get the money. And then we're killing time till our dam's reservoir fills up. So we're just basically in the waiting for things to stabilize. This happens in a lot of these games, that things will go out of whack. You just kind of have to chill till it sorts itself out. These are what I often will refer to as an ant farm game. And what I mean by that is you take the time to, like, you know, do whatever you change you're gonna make, and then you let, like, the simulation run for 15, 20, 30 minutes, sort itself out a little bit, settle in, and then you do, you know, something that, like, you change it for a little bit, and you kind of just watch. So there's like that back and forth of, you poke the thing, you let the dust settle, see how it shakes out, and then as you start to get a feel for how it's going to shake out, you poke the next thing. And it's been going much faster earlier on, because we've had it on full simulation speed the whole time, just about. But, that said, taking the time to frame out these roads and all that has been one of those things I've been doing. Part of the thing is right now I'm saving up for, like, the top... You have buildings that you unlock that they get more and more expensive, and we're getting some of the top buildings that are very pricey. They did add today, well, not today, but like the last couple of days, they did an update to the game that you now have both bigger and smaller schools and all that. So you have like a small elementary school. So you could, if you wanted, instead of having right now where you have like the 1,500 student elementary schools that, you know, kind of serve a decent size area. The idea being making like even smaller elementary schools. So you'd have like your local neighborhood elementary school that would just serve like one or two small suburbs, that kind of thing. Which I like the idea. I'm curious how that would be building your city. Come on. Okay, so I can't pay anymore. Building your city such that instead of having a whole bunch of stuff, you do that. I've been told people are just dying to get into that cemetery. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to make a joke using the grave thing, and I came up empty. Alright, so we're at 5 million going on 6. But like I said, the speed you make money, since we're only using 10 per tree, this is basically irrelevant to overall money. I do also like that the trees grow in this one. In the Game Pass, you just kind of plunked down an adult tree. It's kind of neat the way you plunk them down, and they're okay size. They're like, not saplings, but they're fairly young trees. And then over time, they grow into full-size trees, so they take about 4 times as much space so far as the canopy goes than they do when you plunk them down. It's not enough that they really overlap the road in a meaningful way, but it's still kind of cool. I like the idea of being able to all but like hide like a little dirt road or whatever underneath that, because you'll see those neighborhoods in real life where they plant like a bunch of oak trees or maple or whatever along the sides of the road, and then as, you know, 20, 30, 40 years go by and those trees start to properly mature, it makes a complete canopy so the road just is fully covered by the trees, and it can be really cool to see. Alright. Population is still declining because of the number of elderly. Like, that's the thing, our population's declining, but we very solidly have lots of people moving in. Not many people moving out. And we don't have any obvious health problems that I'm aware of. The water pollution, the only pollution in our water is over here, which is not being pumped into our city, and over there. We do have our water intake up here, but that's upriver from that, so we don't have any water pollution that's hurting us. Average water pollution is basically non-existent. We can go to the noise pollution. The noise pollution is pretty bad in our city, but there isn't really that many things I can do to fix our noise pollution. Let's see, is there a building in the price class above 6 to 7 million? So I can serve for 6 million? Yeah. There is, it's an industrial thing. Like, it's an industrial level. It's not a recycling center, but a waste processing center. But it's one of those, like, big ones you unlock. We go to our ground pollution, and our industry area has ground pollution, our geothermal has ground pollution, and then our industry here. But none of that's hitting our residents, so that's not it. Air pollution, we do have this handful of houses getting hit here, but that would not cause what we're experiencing so far as, you know, what we got going on. Then there's like basically no more air pollution in the residential because all the industry's blowing out of my city. Worker distribution, jobs-wise, is fine. Land value, or so household wealth, rather. Household wealth is doing real well. We got one building over here that's doing badly, but I think that's just because it's a new building. Overall happiness is doing real well. Age distribution. So you can see here, like, this building is so this building is almost nothing but seniors. And if we look at this, all of these are, they're not old. These ones are getting kind of like pretty advanced age, but none of them are young either. Like, we got this one building here that is weirdly young, but like almost all the rest of the city is moderately old. The resources, you see, we just have resources. That doesn't really matter. Our connections, well, company profit. So we do see we have companies struggling around here. Yeah, so average commercial profit is a little rough right now. And that's probably just due to the rapidly reducing population. That our city is unwell because of the sheer number of people we've got passing away right now. Oh, this is what I'm looking for. The land value, you can see where it's getting blue. The deeper the blue, the more value. So this weird spot right off the side of the highway where no one lives, super big value. Really good. Absolutely. That right along the highway, perfect. You absolutely want to live there. It's just weird thing that happens, that if it's near valuable things and all that, it weirdly has high value despite being in it. But generally, all of this blue is decently high value. The university area is high value. This area is building up high value. Building levels, you can see the red is low level. Remember correctly? Yeah, the red is low level, and that's because it's still building up, and the green is higher. So all those new offices we built are low level because we just built them. These are gradually leveling up. This is just our zoning and all that. Like what is good and bad zoning. We have our connections to the outside. So we import and export a lot of good stuff. Tourism. Oh, we have a lot of tourists coming for botanical gardens. Interesting. You know, a little bit over by the universities and all that. Apparently the tourists are showing up in our town to go into our like neighborhoods to go to our small plazas. That's weird. Okay, I guess. Sure. We can go with that. We have lots of recreation. Our mail coverage. Sorry, that's our telecom. Our telecom, basically everything has at least decent coverage. That's ultimately something I'm going to want to move. If we look at our telecom, that's one of the tricks about it. So we have our telecom here, and you see that. If I move it up onto a ledge or a cliff up here, you'll notice it starts turning bright green in the area, because the higher elevation, it gets much better reception and all that. So it would be worth me, you know, going and buying the peak of whatever the highest mountain is in the area, just to give really good coverage for the area. Because it's like in real life, if you put it in the middle of a valley, your reception sucks. Versus if we go way up here, you'll see like all the green that'll appear. They'll cover all that area. So we could get all that coverage. So that's something we could do better, is we get ourselves better connectivity. Our mail coverage is honestly pretty mixed. I do need a mail drop-off spot up here and down there, and that'll do there. We're at the point, really, I need to build another post office. Transportation-wise, we got lots of stuff going on. These are all taxis. I actually really don't like the taxis. I charge the maximum they'll let me to try and get rid of them. Our cargo comes in from train and truck. We have 44,000 people ride my my subway system, 4,000 my train system, and then we still have 1,600 come by taxi. Education is good, except for the elementary schools getting taxed pretty hard. Our admin buildings are just over there. It doesn't really matter. Police coverage is excellent. Disaster, we have no disaster control. Fire is excellent. Trash is doing relatively well. Health is excellent. Yeah. So, like, very genuinely, that's the reason I'm surprised we're still losing people so rapidly, is everything is good in our city overall. Like, what we're dealing with. It's just basically the age distribution is so bad. Hey, Cormac, how's it going? Sadly super busy planting your lurk support tree. Watching your tree. I do like the tree you got there. The best thing is I have my own tree my own tree mode. Cause it's a meme on the channel that trees are evil. Telecom mail was bad for the new office zone mower? No, yeah, it probably is. Like I said, we probably need to start building those antennas up on the mountains. So we got all these things that add tons of tourism and all that, but that's not what we need. Right now, I want to get this built. We're almost have enough money. We're going to shove it over here. And then this will be responsible for everything on this side of the river. And then our other one will be responsible for everything on that side of the river. And that should help our recycling center on the other side handle that. And then this should be extremely way over what I need for this side for now. And the idea is the city will grow to eventually start to push this thing's limits. And all of this should help with our, you never know when a zombie will jump out from behind it. Oh, absolutely. You can't trust the trees. The trees will get you. But thank you for the lurk, Cormac. I appreciate it. Let me do this, which is... Shout out for Cormac, another content creator on the platform you should be checking out. Been doing some Adam RPG, Terrace Land, as well as Elden Ring. So if any of those sound good to you, you can find it over there. And we finally have this. Plunk it down right there. So there's no upgrades you can do here. It gets 250 dump trucks. Okay. So, interestingly enough, I can't actually set it's where it's going to go. So, no matter what, it's going to service the entire city. I can live with that. But yeah, so it can handle up to 250 trucks. So it will handle most of the city. The good news is that is connected to our main highway that has the highest throughput. It does go through this, so I might need to make a route from that directly into the main highway. That's fine. How is our water flow going, by the way? Okay, so we've almost lost all water flow out here. That's fine. This has already seemed to have rerouted since we've cut off that supply. So it looks like we're going to be good with all of this. So that's the good news there. This is continuing to fill up its reservoir, which is also good news. It's going to take for absolutely ever to fill up that reservoir. That'll be kind of like the next 2 or 3 times we play this game, is just watching this reservoir fill. Alright, so we got that. So let's see what our next, like, thing of business is. So, our our elementary school is still not in the greatest shape. And I can't fit another one over here. It feels weird shoving in another one up here. I'm gonna do it. And we are gonna fully upgrade it. But still. I was just thinking you might need a direct road before you realized it can handle 250 trucks. It's still, I mean, but that's the thing. If the road can't handle 250 trucks, it will put 250 trucks lining this road, blocking traffic. So this is the weak point here, is these 2 roundabouts. This is not a good intersection here. So if it does boil down to it, I could take this road and have it plugged directly into this expressway just for this building, and that would help a lot. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that right now, but we'll just let that do its thing. How is our profit margins going? So we are still making $3.2 million per month profit. So that's good news. And I really need the residential thing to get sorted. Oh my god, the death rate just keeps climbing. Like, our population is staying consistent so far as our seniors and all that. We're not seeing a huge shift in the population distribution. Can I encourage more people to move in? Let's not go too much farther. We'll go down there. So I'm gonna try and encourage more people to move in. So we're gonna try and use immigration as our counter to people aging out. We're gonna try and encourage people to immigrate way more aggressively, because we're running into a problem where we're having problems sustaining our city because of just the age distribution being out of whack and our population crashing as a result of it. So having a bunch more people move in, primarily as adults and all that, should help with this. I also just realized half of these don't have the policies put in place. It's whatever. How are your buildings going? So you're struggling a bit. Yeah, we need more people back here to support these businesses. What is your deal down here? Why did you build the tiny little buildings there? Some reason sometimes it's like, no, I don't want to build in that spot. Like, I assume it's like elevation shifts and that kind of stuff. But sometimes hard to tell why they won't build on certain tiles or whatever. Alright, we'll quickly go ahead and plunk down more of this side. Let the simulation run for a minute, try and figure itself out. The good news is while the population's in decline, it's just like a one down arrow. Because it could be like a 3 down arrow where the population is just absolutely dropping. But our population has gone down by about 5,000. We should see it start recovering. Okay. And I also do like that the trees are a little imprecise. The fact that they're not perfectly straight lines and all that, to me, actually does add to making it feel more genuine and authentic. Because sure, they do a good job of having them mostly in line in real life, but there's always a little bit of finagling, a little bit of inaccuracy. You know, because trees will grow, or one tree gets a little bit more of a bend than the next one. So having them all, like, a little bit off makes it feel more real for when you look at a distance where it's not quite perfect. Okay. There we go. We'll slowly get that sorted out. Yeah, so these are starting to get up to tier 2, so they are slowly leveling as our education gets fixed a little bit. I need that seniors percent to go down. Because the unemployment is 0.5%. Like, we have an absurdly low unemployment rate. And cutting those taxes really bit into our monthly profit. But the hope is that we'd get people starting to immigrate in. It's just not actualizing. Yeah, we didn't. We lowered the taxes, and we barely saw a 5% increase in immigration. I think we're starting to have... Our teens are starting to become adults, though. I keep seeing the unemployment rate spike up a little bit, and then settle down, then spike up a little bit. And I think that's because we are starting to have our teens become adults at a higher rate. And our seniors percent has gone down slightly. So I do think we're starting to get to the other side of this death wave. It is interesting having this go much slower. I appreciate it, versus we would have absorbed that entire spike all at the same time. So instead of where we've been profitable the whole time, just, you know, it's adjusting, you know, adjusting a little bit at a time. Normally what would have happened is you would have watched the population just crash down like 15,000 people all at once. And that, at the same time, would cause your entire economy to implode and all that. Versus this is just like, you know, things are just a little bit off, not quite where we need them. So it's taking a lot longer to get to the other side of it. But instead of just your entire city burns down around you, it's like, oh, things are not quite happy. I'm gonna turn my taxes back up on the residential. Because that didn't make a meaningful impact on my immigration. Oh, it blinked up for a second there. For just a second there, it blinked up. I saw it. We're only at losing 2 to 4 people per hour on average. Yeah, so we're right on that fence where it's stabilizing, where it's just barely poking up and down over flat rate. So as this age balances out, it should start to turn up. And then we should get to the other side of this thing, and then these job places looking for customers, and looking for employees and all that should start to recover. But that's the reason I haven't been building a bunch of buildings right now, is I don't have the people to fill them. We gotta wait till that stabilizes, and then we'll be in good order. Honestly, this is probably a good time to start messing with some of this stuff, because this area has got too high of a population density for the roads it has, and I've wanted to correct that for a while to encourage people to move out here. So what we're just gonna go ahead and do, and this is a bad idea, by the way, is we're gonna go ahead and drop that down. You are now... Well, actually, we don't need more jobs. You are now a medium density area. So we're taking that high density area and we're getting rid of it. That's going to hit our population because we basically just evicted a bunch of people. But the plan is to try and get this area under control. So my plan is to reduce the population of this area to encourage the population growth up to this area here that is a much more capable of handling the number of people coming in area. I should also pop, while I've got it... Yeah, so that crashed my population hard. So we're only doing that one block to begin with. Okay. This will be a good spot. So I've got the subway entrance over here. This area will expand this way as well. And go over here. And get a subway entrance there. Alright, so let's go ahead and get ourselves a new subway. Oh, I see. It's... Are you connected over here? So what I want to do is I want to connect this subway system. So we'll go page down. So I can merge onto that one. So for the moment, I'm going to take it all the way out here. And the reason I'm going this far out is the intention of eventually putting a subway station up here. Are you not connected? You're not connected. You went too low. Okay, so with that, grab you from the outside lane. The outside lane. Outside lane. And then inside lane. And then complete the route. Okay, so now I've got a subway route that goes in and around. When we develop this, it'll probably have more residential and all that. The entire idea is that the people can get back and forth through this higher density area. With a nice clean subway system, they're going to have lots of walkways so that when they get into a neighborhood, they can get where they need to. Oh, we're also going to need more parking, aren't we? That's one we haven't been dealing with. And the parking has a couple challenges that I could deal with here. So I could put parking along this road. Then people would have to walk. But that would require me to have walking paths off of here. I can put parking along this area. Right now, the only parking I have is this giant structure here when you first enter the neighborhoods. But the problem is I don't think I have enough room to fit more parking garages. Oh, we got new forms of parking here. Interesting. Sadly, it still looks like the giant parking garage is kind of king here. Just for the amount of people it can carry. Because you can get the huge one, but it just takes up lots of space. Oh, the long one might be usable. Because we can wedge it in between some buildings. Like, when we have an area I can't quite fit some other zoning or whatever. We could put it over here. We've got some mix that hasn't gotten developed. So the thing is, the underground parking is the big one. Capacity-wise. So that's the huge. That's the large. That's the wide. That's the medium. The long will fit. So how much is a long parking lot? So long parking lot is 40, which isn't very good. Because if we compare that against the underground one, that's 200 or 250 or whatever. So it is a much more efficient use of space. So unfortunately, it doesn't make sense for me to use the long. It fits, but I'd almost be better off having like a little outcropping here that I put like the big giant one there, which is still probably a bad idea. I mean, I'll probably just have to build it off here. That's people coming into the city, so I want to be careful to not build it there either. Let me explain why. So I could build it like this, and that would seem good, and that would help for people coming in, but imagine one of the people here wants to park. They will drive out of the neighborhood, out, around, and then back in, which isn't going to help me much. So I'm just going to go ahead and knock down that commercial zone, and we'll get ourselves an underground parking here. And the reason I left the gap there is one for walkways later, but also so we can break up this area to be less just skyscrapers in gray, just give it a little bit of character. Because I also don't want people... I don't know what that sound is, but it's terrible. But I also want like a little gap, because I actually should shift that over one as well, so we can get the line of trees in there. So we'll see how fast this fills up as well. And how are you doing? You've got 12 vehicles out. Generally, things are doing okay with the trash. Our population is now actually climbing at a decent rate. That's good news. This area just didn't redevelop yet. We'll just leave that alone for the time being. And we're still lacking employees. We're just gonna let that float for a little while. The number of teens have gone up in percent, so that's good. We are moving towards getting more adults. That death rate just keeps climbing. Which is interesting because, like, oh, make sure you have healthcare coverage and all that. I'm like, I've got really good healthcare coverage up here. The next building we could potentially go for is we do have the ability to make the medical university. And that is $2.4 million. And my thought was to put it along this road over here, even though that's like the main trunk in that we have all this. If I put it along this road here, that should make it a draw-in. How's your crematorium cemetery holding up? This is doing pretty well. Ooh, actually, you're honestly hitting capacity. Oh, no, you're not. You can handle 100 buys a month, but you aren't filling up, so you're doing okay. And this one's actually at capacity. That's the first I've run into that. An additional incinerator. And it'll expand its capacity. Okay, that'll help. The cemetery has been doing relatively okay. Like, it's got more than enough capacity. It just doesn't have the vehicles to keep up. Yeah, so that should help. We've increased the capacity of both of these. Yeah, because it said its processing speed is being loaded, but then you look at the number of deceased actually on site, and it's not actually being strained at all. But this one was actually at capacity in what it was processing. So that's part of one of our problems, was just the body's not being processed fast enough. Man, that death rate just keeps climbing. And like I said, we went through and we checked. We don't have like water pollution or anything like that going on. Yeah, so I think the next move is going to be to build the medical university, because that'll improve the chances of people surviving who go to the hospital. It'll also increase the effectiveness of the hospitals. And with that, our waters continue to climb. What is underwater up here? Old cemetery ruins. Well, you shouldn't have built your old cemetery in the zone that we're making into a reservoir. Just saying. Alright, we've officially hit the point that water is no longer going really either way. This is just kind of stuck, because gravity's trying to pull it this way and this is trying to push the water out. So this will probably be where that sits until the reservoir fills. That'll probably be what our river looks like. Yeah, and everyone's looking for employees. All right. Okay, and yeah, so it does look like we're starting to see a decline in the amount of people we need hitting our elementary school system, as well as our other school system. So we are basically just waiting for the age to balance out. Man, the rate of that. Different age groups have different regarding. Yeah, so it's just the whole thing. Yeah, so it's just saying they have different consumer habits and all that. But that doesn't really give me the information I need. And they make comments about crimes like, I don't feel safe, and it's like, jail availability is really high. Prison availability. Oh, okay. Prison's a whole separate tier. That's interesting. So it says jail availability. I've got plenty of jail availability, but prisons, I've got a whole bunch of people sentenced. And crime success rate is actually really high. Despite it saying, like, you look at the map and the crime rate looks really low based on this. That the police coverage is really good, the crime probability is extremely low. So it's looking like I need to actually build a prison. Because weirdly, okay, so prison's a higher punishment. If there's no prison available and you've got jail available and the jail is not as high of a punishment, you would assume they would take the people who would go to prison and put them in jail, but apparently not. So I'm gonna need to do that. The downside is I can't do that until we level up again, which is unfortunately not gonna happen very soon. Oh man, we are 12,000 jobs available. Eek. The companies are suffering. They cannot fill jobs. This would be a situation where it would be really good to be at the working age, because you would practically be able to say, this is what I want for my salary, and it'd be like, yes, we physically have no choice but to accept you or close our doors. So I guess that's your salary. I mean, obviously, if it's too high, they go out of business. But it's one of those situations where they just gotta allocate way more of their budget to salary because there's no one to hire. There's just no one to hire. The good news, we're still a very profitable city. And our citizens are extraordinarily happy. Like, really, really, really happy. I wonder what it could do to help with the small homes penalty. Like, I only choose high, medium, or low density or affordable apartments. Like that kind of thing. And that doesn't really seem to make a big difference one way or the other. And then the high noise pollution, like I said, I think the noise pollution is one of those things I don't see many ways to help out with. Because if we just look, for example, even the residential here by itself seems to be producing its own noise to a certain extent. Like the mixed zoning just automatically has noise. This campsite's making a ridiculous amount of noise. So that's one thing that we could potentially improve. But yeah, like this whole area back here all shows as having decent noise going on. Despite like this all being just mixed zoning back here. And this is just straight up bad for being loud, but I mean, you think of any major city, they're not quiet. Like you go into like downtown New York, it's not quiet. You go to downtown like that, there's just no such thing as quiet when you've got tens of thousands of people in a small area. With all that said, we are getting to be about that time. So the good news is I do think our situation is starting to properly balance out over time here. We're just dealing with the death wave, and it's interesting that the death waves now are very, very gradual. The good news is once it starts recovering, it should stay in recovery for a very long time as well. As opposed to, again, the whiplash you used to have where your economy would collapse, you'd go literally millions of dollars into debt, and then, you know, suddenly your economy would be, like, extremely healthy and pull you back out of debt. And it was just, like, this weird thing. And I would say Skylines 1 did that as well. But they finally did address it by kind of forcing it to be a more gradual down and up. So with all that said, we are getting to be about that point, so hang out. We're going to go ahead and take this raid train on to find the next person and all that good stuff, so I do appreciate everyone popping in. If you have enjoyed tonight's content, you aren't already following the channel, don't forget to drop a follow. That way you can find your way back here in the future. As a reminder, I do stream 5 days a week, which is every day but Thursdays and Fridays, so the next 2 days I don't stream, but I'll be back on Saturday. We might play RimWorld, we might play something else. 0.6% unemployment is how a few gummers would like to have it. I mean, honestly, 0.6% unemployment would be amazing. It'd be rough to hire people, but it would be good for everyone but businesses trying to, like, go on the cheap. Like, there would be businesses who can't operate under that, but yeah. So with all that said, if you are watching on YouTube and TikTok, those streams will be ending abruptly because there's no such thing as raiding there. If you're over here on Twitch, we are going to go raid out and find someone to say hello to and make a new friend or visit someone we already know, more than likely someone we already know, because I like knowing that I send people to people I can count on making good content, but you never